The night Nathaniel Hayes made the worst decision of his billion-dollar career, he didn't know it would save his life. Standing in the freezing rain outside the Peninsula Hotel, the 32-year-old CEO faced a choice that would destroy everything he'd built, or give him everything he'd lost. One phone call to his driver, one ignored stranger on the sidewalk. That's all it would have taken to keep his perfect, empty world intact. But he stopped walking, and the broken woman shivering in that doorway, she was about to shatter every rule he lived by. Stay with me until the end. This story goes places you won't expect. Hit like and drop your city in the comments so I can see how far this journey travels. The rain fell like punishment. Nathaniel Hayes stood under the awning of the Peninsula Hotel, watching water hammer the Manhattan streets in sheets so thick the traffic lights bled into watercolor smears. His Tom Ford suit was still dry. His Patek Philippe watch still read 11:47 p.m. His phone still buzzed with emails he didn't want to answer. Everything was exactly as it should be, exactly as empty as it had been for the past 3 years. "Mr. Hayes, your car's arriving now." His assistant Marcus appeared at his elbow, holding an umbrella that probably cost more than most people's monthly rent. Nathaniel nodded without looking at him. The corporate dinner had been the usual performance. Handshakes that meant nothing, smiles that sold everything, conversations designed to extract maximum value while revealing minimum truth. He'd closed a $70 million merger over Chilean sea bass and lies about caring how anyone's family was doing. He was exceptional at it. He hated every second. "Sir?" Marcus was still waiting. "Go home, Marcus. I'll walk." "In this weather?" "I said, go home." Marcus hesitated, then disappeared into the night, taking his expensive umbrella with him. Nathaniel stayed where he was, watching the rain destroy the city he'd conquered. Somewhere up in the towers of glass and steel, his daughter Sophie was asleep in her room, cared for by the third nanny this year. Somewhere in the cold machine of his life there was supposed to be meaning. He just couldn't remember where he'd left it. His phone buzzed again, a text from his head of acquisitions. "Deal's done. Celebrating at One Oak. You coming?" Nathaniel typed back, "No." Then he stepped into the rain. The cold hit him like a physical thing, soaking through his suit jacket in seconds. Water poured down his face, his neck, turning his shirt transparent against his skin. He should have felt ridiculous, a billionaire walking alone through a storm in a $3,000 suit. Instead, he felt nothing at all. He'd been feeling nothing for so long now that he'd almost forgotten what else was possible. Nathaniel walked without direction, letting the rain wash over him, trying to remember the last time he'd felt anything real. The last time someone had looked at him and seen past the net worth, past the power, past the carefully constructed image of the man who had everything. His wife had seen him. Sarah had known every broken piece of him and loved him anyway. Then she died, and took all the light with her. That was 3 years ago. 3 years of building empires and raising a daughter he didn't know how to talk to and forgetting what it felt like to be human instead of just successful. 3 years of perfect emptiness. Nathaniel stopped at a corner, rain dripping from his hair into his eyes. He should call his driver, go home, check on Sophie, answer those emails, do any of the 1,000 things that kept his billion-dollar life running smoothly. He stood there, not doing any of them. That's when he saw her. At first, she was just a shape in a doorway, a shadow hunched against the storm in the entrance of a closed boutique. Nathaniel almost walked past, almost kept moving. The city was full of people with nowhere to go, and he'd learned long ago that you couldn't fix everything, couldn't save everyone, couldn't let yourself feel too much or you'd drown. But something made him stop. Maybe it was the way she was sitting with her arms wrapped around herself, shaking so hard he could see it from 10 feet away. Maybe it was how young she looked despite the exhaustion carved into her face. Maybe it was the way she was trying desperately not to cry, fighting tears the way you fight when you've already lost everything else, and you're terrified of losing the last shred of control. Or maybe Nathaniel Hayes was just so tired of being empty that he'd do anything, even something stupid, to feel human again. He walked toward her. She didn't look up, didn't acknowledge him. She was soaked to the bone, her thin jacket plastered to her frame, dark hair hanging in wet ropes around her face. Her jeans were torn at the knees, her sneakers held together with duct tape. Everything about her screamed survival, desperation, the kind of poverty that wasn't temporary or romantic or anything except brutal. Nathaniel knelt down in front of her. That's when she finally looked at him. Her eyes were green, the kind of green that looked like life itself, even drowned in rain and fear. For 1 second they went wide with panic, and he saw her entire body tense like she was about to run. "I'm not going to hurt you," Nathaniel said quietly. She didn't relax, didn't speak, just stared at him like he was another threat in a world made entirely of threats. He shrugged off his suit jacket, rain immediately soaking through his shirt. "Here, I don't—" Her voice came out hoarse, broken. "I don't want anything. I know. I'm not—" She swallowed hard. "I'm not doing anything for money." The words hit him like a punch. That's what she thought. That's what experience had taught her, that no man offered help without wanting something in return. "I'm just offering you a jacket," Nathaniel said. "That's all." She looked at him for a long moment, searching his face for the lie, the angle, the inevitable cruelty. He let her look. Let her see whatever she needed to see. Finally, slowly, she reached for the jacket. Her hands were shaking so badly she could barely hold it. Nathaniel wanted to help her put it on, but he didn't move, didn't push, just stayed kneeling there in the rain while she struggled into the expensive fabric, wrapping it around herself like armor. "Thank you," she whispered. "What's your name?" She hesitated. "Emily." "I'm Nathaniel." He paused. "When did you last eat?" "I'm fine." That wasn't the question. Emily looked away. "Yesterday. Maybe. I don't—" It doesn't matter. It mattered. It mattered so much that Nathaniel felt something crack open in his chest. Something he'd kept sealed for 3 years because feeling anything was too dangerous, too painful, too real. "There's a diner 2 blocks from here," he said. "It's warm. The coffee's terrible, but the food's decent. Come with me." "I can't pay." "I didn't ask you to pay." "Why are you doing this?" Emily's voice cracked. "You don't know me. You don't owe me anything. Why do you even care?" Nathaniel stood up, rain streaming down his face, and for the first time in 3 years, he told someone the absolute truth. "Because I'm tired of walking past people like they're invisible," he said. "Because I'm tired of pretending I don't see suffering. Because for the last 3 years, I've been so focused on building things and making money and being successful that I forgot what it feels like to just be a decent human being." He held out his hand. "So maybe I'm not doing this for you. Maybe I'm doing it for me." Emily stared at his outstretched hand like it might disappear if she reached for it. Then slowly, she took it. Her hand was freezing. Nathaniel pulled her to her feet, steadying her when she swayed. She was taller than he'd expected, maybe 5'7", but she moved like someone who'd learned to make herself small. "I'm a mess," she said quietly. "I'll ruin your whatever restaurant. It's a diner. No one cares." Nathaniel started walking, keeping his pace slow. "And you're not a mess. You're a person who got caught in the rain." "I've been caught in the rain for 3 months." The words were so quiet he almost missed them. 3 months. She'd been living like this for 3 months. They walked in silence through the storm. Emily kept her arms wrapped around herself, his jacket hanging loose on her thin frame. Nathaniel noticed the way she flinched every time someone passed too close, the way she kept checking behind them like she expected someone to follow. The diner was almost empty when they arrived. Just a tired waitress and 2 truckers nursing coffee at the counter. The fluorescent lights were harsh after the darkness outside, making Emily squint as they slid into a booth. "Order whatever you want," Nathaniel said. Emily picked up the menu with shaking hands. He watched her scan the prices, saw the moment she started calculating what she could ask for without seeming greedy. "Emily." She looked up. "I own a financial company that manages $40 billion in assets," Nathaniel said. "I promise you can order more than a side salad." Her eyes went wide. Wait, you're serious?" "Unfortunately." "Then what are you doing?" She gestured at herself, at the situation. "Why are you here with me?" "I told you, I'm tired of being empty." The waitress appeared before Emily could respond. "What'll it be?" "Coffee," Emily said. "And, maybe eggs and toast, if that's—" "Eggs, toast, hash browns, bacon, and pancakes," Nathaniel interrupted. "And coffee. Lots of coffee." When the waitress left, Emily stared at him. "I can't eat all that." "Then take the rest with you." I don't have anywhere to take it to. The words hung in the air between them. Simple, devastating, true. Where have you been staying? Nathaniel asked quietly. Emily looked down at the table. Wherever I can. Shelters mostly. When they have space. Sometimes I just... She stopped. It doesn't matter. It matters. Why? Her voice broke. Why does it matter to you? You don't know me. You don't know anything about me. I could be anyone. I could be lying. I could be dangerous. Are you? No. Then that's all I need to know. Emily's hands were shaking again. She pressed them flat on the table, trying to steady them. People don't just help. Not without wanting something. I'm not people. No, you're a billionaire, which makes it even weirder. Nathaniel almost smiled. There was fight in her. Underneath the fear and exhaustion, there was still fight. Would it be less weird if I was poor? It would be more believable. The coffee arrived. Emily wrapped both hands around the cup like it was the only warm thing left in the world. She took a sip and closed her eyes, and Nathaniel saw something in her face that looked almost like relief. How long have you been in New York? He asked. 6 months. I came here from... She stopped. Somewhere else. You're running from something. It wasn't a question. Emily's entire body went rigid. I'm not asking for details, Nathaniel said quickly. I'm just stating the obvious. You're scared. You're alone. You're fighting something bigger than just being broke. Emily set down her coffee cup. Her hands were still shaking. His name was Ryan. We were together for 4 years. He was... She swallowed. He was good at making you think everything was your fault. Good at making you feel small. Good at controlling everything until you didn't even remember who you were without him. Nathaniel felt rage ignite in his chest. Cold, controlled, absolute. I left him 8 months ago, Emily continued. Took what I could carry and disappeared. Thought I was smart about it. Thought I covered my tracks. She laughed bitterly. Turns out it's hard to disappear when you're broke. Hard to start over when you're terrified all the time. Hard to trust anyone when the person you trusted most spent 4 years destroying you. Is he looking for you? I don't know. Maybe. Probably. Emily's voice dropped to a whisper. I keep thinking I see him. Every man who looks at me too long. Every footstep behind me at night. Every time my phone buzzes, I think it's him, even though I changed my number, even though he shouldn't be able to find me. The food arrived. Emily stared at the plate like she'd forgotten what food was supposed to look like when it wasn't scavenged or rationed. Eat, Nathaniel said gently. She picked up her fork, put it down, picked it up again. Her hands were shaking too hard. I don't understand why you're being kind to me, she said quietly. I don't understand what you want. I don't want anything. Everyone wants something. Maybe I just want to remember what it feels like to do something that matters. Emily looked at him, really looked at him, and Nathaniel saw the moment she decided to trust him. It was fragile, tentative, the kind of trust that could shatter with one wrong move. But it was there. She started eating. Nathaniel ordered his own coffee and watched her destroy the food with the quiet desperation of someone who didn't know when the next meal was coming. She tried to pace herself at first, tried to maintain some dignity. Then hunger won and she just ate, tears streaming down her face. I'm sorry, she whispered. I'm sorry. I'm disgusting. You're hungry, Nathaniel said. There's no shame in that. I used to be... Emily stopped, wiping her eyes. I used to be a person. I had a job. I had plans. I was going to go back to school for interior design. I had dreams. She laughed bitterly. Then I spent 4 years with someone who convinced me that dreams were selfish and wanting anything for myself was betrayal. And by the time I realized what he'd done, I was so small I could barely remember who I'd been before. You got out. Yeah, and look at me now, so much better. You survived. Surviving isn't living. Nathaniel knew that truth too well. No, it's not. They sat in silence while Emily finished eating. Outside, the rain kept falling. Inside, the fluorescent lights hummed. 2 broken people sitting in a diner at midnight, temporarily escaping the cold. I need to ask you something, Nathaniel said finally. And you can say no. You can walk out right now and I won't stop you or follow you or try to find you. Emily went very still. What? I have a guest room in my apartment. It's empty. It's been empty for 3 years. I want you to stay there tonight. I can't. I'm not asking for anything. I'm not. He stopped, choosing his words carefully. I have a 3-year-old daughter named Sophie. She's asleep right now with her nanny. My building has 24-hour security. My apartment has multiple bedrooms, multiple locks, multiple exits. You'll be safe. I promise, you'll be safe. Emily was shaking her head. You don't know me. You can't just. People don't do this. I'm doing it. Why? Nathaniel looked at this stranger across the table, this woman who'd been beaten down by life and love and circumstance and was still fighting, still surviving, still trying to find a reason to trust. 3 years ago, my wife died, he said quietly. Car accident. She was coming home from her sister's place and some drunk driver ran a red light and she was just gone. 1 second she was texting me about what to make for dinner and the next second she was gone. He paused. After she died, everyone said the same thing. They said if I needed anything, just ask. If I needed help, they were there. If I needed to talk, their door was open. Did anyone mean it? No. Or maybe they did, but they didn't know how. They didn't know what I needed because I didn't know what I needed. So I just shut down, built walls, focused on work, became the kind of person who walks past suffering because acknowledging it means acknowledging that I'm suffering too. Emily's eyes were bright with unshed tears. I'm not your wife. I know. This isn't about her. This is about... Nathaniel stopped, started again. When I saw you tonight, I had a choice. Walk past like everyone else, or stop. And I'm so tired of walking past. I'm so tired of being the kind of person who has everything and feels nothing. Helping me won't fix you. I'm not trying to fix me. I'm trying to be human again. Emily pressed her hands against her face. Her shoulders shook. When she finally looked up, her eyes were red but clear. One night, she said. That's all. And if anything feels wrong, you can leave any time, no questions asked. She nodded slowly. Okay. They left the diner 20 minutes later. The rain had slowed to a drizzle, turning the city soft and gray. Nathaniel called his driver while Emily stood a few feet away, arms wrapped around herself, his jacket still hanging on her thin frame. The car arrived, a black Mercedes that probably cost more than Emily had made in the past 5 years. She stopped walking when she saw it. That's yours? It's just a car. That's not just a car. That's a statement. Nathaniel opened the door. Then it's saying we're both getting out of the rain. Emily climbed in carefully, like she was afraid she might break something. The leather seats, the climate control, the bottle of water waiting in the cup holder. Nathaniel watched her take it all in with a mixture of wonder and discomfort. Where to, Mr. Hayes? The driver asked. Home. They drove through Manhattan in silence. Emily stared out the window, watching the city slide past in a blur of light and rain. Nathaniel watched her, trying to understand what he'd just done. He'd brought a stranger into his life. Someone broken and scared and running from demons he couldn't see. Someone who needed help he didn't know how to give. Someone who could be lying about everything. But when he looked at her face reflected in the window, young and old at the same time, exhausted and fighting, empty and full of desperate hope, he knew he'd made the right choice, even if it was the stupidest thing he'd ever done. The car pulled up to his building on the Upper East Side. Emily stared up at the glass tower like it was a spaceship. You live here? Penthouse. Of course you do. She laughed, slightly hysterical. Of course the random billionaire who picked me up off the street lives in a penthouse. This is insane. This whole night is insane. We can still go back to the diner. No. Emily took a shaky breath. No, I'm okay. They rode the elevator in silence. Nathaniel used his key card for the private penthouse access, and Emily's eyes went wider with each floor they climbed. The doors opened directly into his apartment. It was exactly what you'd expect from a billionaire's home. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking Central Park, furniture that cost more than cars, art on the walls that belonged in museums. Everything perfectly designed, perfectly expensive, perfectly empty. Emily stood in the entrance like she was afraid to touch anything. Welcome, Nathaniel said quietly. This is... She turned in a slow circle. I've never seen anything like this. It's just space. It's not just space, it's a whole different world. Emily hugged his jacket tighter around herself. I don't belong here. Neither do I most days. She looked at him sharply. You're serious. My wife decorated this place. Chose every piece of furniture, every painting, every dish in the kitchen. After she died, I couldn't change anything, couldn't move anything. It's like living in a museum dedicated to someone who isn't coming back. Nathaniel gestured down the hall. The guest room is this way. He led her through the apartment, past Sophie's room where his daughter was sleeping, past his own bedroom, to a room at the end of the hall that hadn't been opened in months. The guest room was simple by penthouse standards: queen bed, private bathroom, windows overlooking the city. Emily stood in the doorway like she was waiting for the catch. There's towels in the bathroom, Nathaniel said. Clean clothes in the dresser. They're my wife's, from before. I couldn't... He stopped. They might fit. You can take whatever you need. There's food in the kitchen, water, coffee. Everything locks from the inside. Emily's hands were shaking again. I don't know how to thank you. You don't have to thank me. Yes, I do. You saved my life tonight. You know that, right? If you hadn't stopped, if you hadn't... Her voice broke. I was starting to give up. I was starting to think maybe it would be easier to just stop fighting. Nathaniel felt something twist in his chest. You're safe now. For tonight. For as long as you need. Emily looked at him with those green eyes full of fear and hope and exhaustion. Why are you doing this? I already told you. Tell me again. Nathaniel leaned against the doorframe, suddenly exhausted himself. 3 years ago, I stopped being a person and became a function. I make money. I make deals. I make decisions. But I don't feel anything. I don't connect with anyone. I don't remember what it's like to do something just because it's right, not because it's profitable. He paused. Tonight, I felt something. When I saw you in that doorway, I felt human again. So maybe I'm not saving you. Maybe you're saving me. Tears ran down Emily's face. She didn't try to stop them. Get some sleep, Nathaniel said gently. We'll figure out tomorrow when tomorrow comes. He started to leave, then stopped. Emily? Yeah? You're not alone anymore. He closed the door softly behind him. Nathaniel stood in his hallway for a long moment, listening to the silence of his too big apartment. Somewhere behind him, Emily was probably standing in that guest room trying to process everything that had happened. Somewhere down the hall, Sophie was dreaming whatever 3-year-olds dreamed about. And somewhere in his chest, something that had been frozen for 3 years was starting to thaw. It terrified him. Nathaniel walked to Sophie's room and pushed open the door quietly. His daughter was sprawled across her bed, clutching a stuffed elephant, her dark hair messy against the pillow. She looked exactly like Sarah when she slept. Same peaceful expression, same way of sleeping like gravity didn't exist. I did something stupid tonight, he whispered to his sleeping daughter. I brought a stranger home, someone who needs help, someone who's broken. He sat on the edge of her bed. I don't know if it's the right thing. I don't know if I'm trying to fix my own emptiness by fixing someone else. But for the first time in 3 years, I felt something real. Sophie shifted in her sleep, mumbling something incomprehensible. Your mom would have stopped too, Nathaniel continued. She always stopped, always saw people, always cared too much about strangers. He touched his daughter's hair gently. Maybe that's what I'm trying to do. Be the person she would have wanted me to be. He sat there for another few minutes, then left Sophie to her dreams. Back in his own room, Nathaniel stood at the window overlooking the city. The rain had stopped finally, leaving the streets slick and reflective under the streetlights. Somewhere out there, people were suffering. Somewhere out there, people were fighting battles no one else could see. And for one night, he'd stopped walking past. His phone buzzed. A text from Marcus. Heard you walked home in the rain. You okay? Nathaniel typed back. Yeah, better than I've been in a long time. He showered, changed, lay down in bed. Sleep didn't come. He kept thinking about Emily's face when she finally let herself eat. The way she'd looked at his jacket like it was a lifeline. The fear in her eyes when she talked about Ryan. What had he gotten himself into? Nathaniel stared at the ceiling, knowing he'd crossed a line tonight. Knowing he'd brought chaos into his carefully controlled life. Knowing that nothing would be the same after this. And for the first time in 3 years, he was okay with that. Somewhere down the hall, Emily was probably having the same thoughts. Probably wondering if she'd made a mistake trusting him. Probably terrified that this was temporary, that morning would come and reality would crash back in. He wanted to tell her it would be okay. Wanted to promise that she was safe now, that he'd protect her, that nothing bad would ever happen again. But Nathaniel knew better than to make promises he couldn't keep. All he could do was try. The city lights glowed through his windows. The apartment creaked and settled around him. And Nathaniel Hayes, billionaire, widower, father, stranger to his own life, lay awake wondering if saving someone else might somehow save him too. He didn't have an answer. But for the first time in 3 years, he had hope. Morning came too bright. Emily woke up disoriented, her body jerking upright in a bed that was too soft, in a room that was too quiet, wearing clothes that weren't hers. For 3 panicked seconds, she didn't know where she was. Then the memories crashed back. The rain, the diner, the billionaire who'd stopped walking, the penthouse that looked like something from a movie. She was still here. It hadn't been a dream. The clock on the nightstand read 6:47 a.m. Emily sat on the edge of the bed, feet on carpet so plush it felt criminal, and tried to figure out what happened next. She should leave. Slip out before Nathaniel woke up, before his daughter saw her, before this fragile kindness shattered into something ugly. That's what experience had taught her. Take the help, then disappear before the bill came due. But when she stood up and caught her reflection in the mirror across the room, she stopped. The woman staring back at her was clean. She'd showered last night, stood under water so hot it burned, scrubbing away weeks of street grime and fear. The clothes she'd borrowed from Nathaniel's dead wife actually fit. Soft yoga pants and a sweater that smelled like expensive detergent instead of desperation. For the first time in months, she looked almost human. Emily touched her face, tracing the dark circles under her eyes, the hollows in her cheeks. Still broken, still scared, but clean. She heard voices outside the room. A child's laughter, a deeper voice responding. Her hand went to the door handle, then froze. What was she supposed to do? Walk out there and pretend this was normal? Sit at breakfast with a billionaire and his daughter like she belonged? The door opened before she could decide. Nathaniel stood there holding a mug of coffee, looking tired but somehow more relaxed than he had last night. He'd changed into jeans and a plain t-shirt, casual expensive instead of corporate expensive. "You're awake," he said. "I was just—" Emily gestured vaguely. "I should probably go." "You haven't had breakfast." "I don't want to impose—" "Emily." Nathaniel's voice was gentle. "I asked you to stay. That wasn't charity. That was an invitation." She wanted to believe him, wanted it so badly her chest ached. "Come on," he said. "Sophie's making pancakes. By which I mean she's mostly throwing flour everywhere while our nanny actually makes pancakes." Emily followed him down the hallway, acutely aware of how out of place she was. The penthouse looked even more surreal in daylight, all glass and light and wealth she couldn't comprehend. The kitchen was chaos. A small girl with dark curls was standing on a step stool at the counter, covered in flour, giggling hysterically while a middle-aged woman tried to rescue what remained of the pancake batter. When Sophie saw Nathaniel, she shrieked with delight. "Daddy, I'm making breakfast." "I can see that." Nathaniel kissed the top of her head, getting flour on his shirt. "Sophie, this is Emily. She's staying with us for a while." Sophie turned to look at Emily with the brutal honesty of a 3-year-old. "Why?" "Because she's my friend," Nathaniel said easily. "Are you Daddy's girlfriend?" Emily's face went hot. "No, Sophie, manners." The nanny, a kind-faced woman in her 50s, extended a floury hand to Emily. "I'm Patricia. Don't mind Sophie. She asks everyone if they're Daddy's girlfriend. Last week, it was the UPS delivery person." "He was nice," Sophie said defensively. Despite everything, Emily almost smiled. I'm just staying here temporarily." "Well, temporarily or not, you're welcome to pancakes." Patricia gestured at the disaster zone of the kitchen. "What's left of them, anyway?" Breakfast was surreal. Emily sat at a table that probably cost more than a car, eating pancakes shaped like dinosaurs, while a 3-year-old asked her approximately 400 questions. "Do you like dinosaurs?" Yes." "What's your favorite?" "I don't really—" "Mine's a brachiosaurus because they have long necks and they can see everything. Can you see everything? You're tall." Nathaniel caught Emily's eye across the table. She could see him trying not to laugh. "Sophie, let Emily eat," he said. "But I have questions." "You always have questions." Sophie considered this. "That's true." Then she turned back to Emily. "Do you have a job?" The question hit harder than it should have. Emily set down her fork carefully. "Not right now." "Why not?" "Sophie, it's okay," Emily said quietly. She looked at this tiny person who didn't know enough to make questions hurt. "I'm between jobs." "What does that mean?" "It means I'm figuring things out." Sophie nodded sagely, like this made perfect sense. "I'm between naps. That's what Patricia says when I don't want to sleep." This time Emily did smile. Exactly like that. After breakfast, Patricia took Sophie to get ready for preschool, leaving Emily and Nathaniel alone with the wreckage of the kitchen. "I should clean this up," Emily said immediately. "Patricia will, please." Emily was already gathering plates. "Let me do something. Let me be useful." Nathaniel watched her for a moment, then nodded. They cleaned in silence, falling into an easy rhythm. Emily washing, Nathaniel drying. It felt weirdly domestic, weirdly normal, like they'd done this 1,000 times before. "She's a lot," Nathaniel said finally, nodding toward where Sophie had disappeared. "She's wonderful. She's exhausting." But he said it with so much love that Emily felt her chest tighten. "After Sarah died, I didn't know how to be a father. Didn't know how to be anything except empty. Patricia basically raised Sophie for the first year. But you're here now. I'm trying to be." Nathaniel dried a plate slowly. "I keep thinking Sarah would be so disappointed in how I handled it. She would have wanted me to be strong for Sophie. Instead, I just shut down." Emily scrubbed at a pan that was already clean. "Grief doesn't care what anyone wants." "No, it doesn't." They finished the dishes. Nathaniel poured fresh coffee. They sat at the counter like two people who didn't quite know what they were doing but were trying anyway. "I need to talk to you about something," Nathaniel said. Emily's whole body tensed. "Here it comes, the catch, the real reason." "I have a proposition," he continued. "And before you panic, just listen." "Okay." "I need an executive assistant. My current one is good at his job, but he's been angling for a promotion. He wants to move into acquisitions, which means I need someone new." Nathaniel paused. "I want to offer you the position." Emily stared at him. "You can't be serious." "I'm completely serious. You don't even know if I'm qualified. You survived 4 years with an abusive partner, escaped with nothing, and made it 8 months on your own in one of the most expensive cities in the world. That tells me you're resourceful, resilient, and capable of handling impossible situations." He took a sip of coffee. "Those are exactly the skills I need." That's not how jobs work. You need resumes, references, background checks." "I can get all of that, but I'm offering you the job anyway." Emily stood up abruptly, pacing to the window. The city spread out below them, glittering and indifferent. "Why are you doing this?" "Because you need a job and I need an assistant." "That's not an answer." "What do you want me to say?" Nathaniel turned to face her. "That I feel guilty? That I'm trying to fix you? That this makes me feel better about my own emptiness?" "Yes! Any of that would make more sense than just giving me a job because you feel like it." "Maybe I don't have a good reason," Nathaniel said quietly. "Maybe I'm just tired of walking past people who need help. Maybe I spent 3 years being so focused on protecting myself from feeling anything that I forgot how to be decent. Or maybe—" He stopped. "Maybe I saw something in you last night. Something that reminded me that people are worth saving, including myself." Emily pressed her forehead against the cool glass. "I don't know how to do this. I don't know how to accept help without waiting for it to turn into something else." "I know. What if I'm terrible at the job?" "Then I'll fire you." She laughed shakily. "Just like that?" "Just like that." Nathaniel stood up, walking over to stand beside her. "Look, I'm not going to pretend this is purely altruistic. I do need an assistant. And yeah, maybe part of me is trying to prove I'm not completely dead inside. But the offer is real. The job is real. You'd have a salary, benefits, your own space here until you can afford your own place." "How much?" Emily asked quietly. $70,000 to start. More if you're good at it." She actually laughed. That's more than I've ever made." "It's market rate for executive assistants in Manhattan." "Less, actually." Emily turned to look at him. Really look at him. This man who'd stopped in the rain, who'd brought her home, who was now offering her a life she'd stopped believing was possible. "What if Ryan finds me?" she whispered. "Then we deal with it. What if I'm not good enough?" "You will be." "How do you know?" Nathaniel met her eyes. "Because you're still fighting. After everything, you're still here. That's enough." Emily wanted to cry, wanted to run, wanted to believe this could possibly be real. "I need time," she said, "to think about it." "Take all the time you need." But even as she said it, Emily knew she'd already decided. Because what choice did she have? Go back to the streets? Back to shelters? Back to running and hiding and slowly disappearing? At least here, she had a chance. "Okay," she said finally. "Okay, I'll try." Nathaniel smiled, actually smiled, and Emily realized it was the first real smile she'd seen from him. "Good. We'll start Monday. That gives you the weekend to settle in." "What am I supposed to do until Monday?" "Whatever you want. Rest, watch TV, explore the apartment. Sophie will probably recruit you for tea parties." He paused. "Or we could get you some clothes that aren't my dead wife's." Emily looked down at the borrowed outfit. "I don't have money. You start Monday. Consider it a signing bonus." "Nathaniel, I'm not arguing about this. You need clothes. I have money. It's not complicated." Except it was complicated. Everything about this was complicated. But Emily was too tired to fight it. "Fine," she said, "but nothing crazy expensive." Define crazy. "Nothing that costs more than my first month's rent used to." Nathaniel looked pained. "You're going to make shopping very boring." They left an hour later after Sophie had been deposited at preschool with much fanfare and many questions about whether Emily would be there when she got home. Patricia promised to handle pickup, giving Nathaniel a look that clearly said she had questions but would save them for later. The Mercedes drove them to Soho, to boutiques Emily had walked past 1,000 times without ever imagining she'd walk inside. Nathaniel moved through these spaces like he belonged there, which he did, while Emily felt like an imposter waiting to be discovered. "Pick whatever you want," he said. Emily stood frozen in front of racks of clothes that probably cost more than her entire wardrobe had cost in her previous life. A saleswoman appeared, all white teeth and subtle judgment. "Can I help you find something?" "She needs a complete wardrobe," Nathaniel said. "Professional and casual. Start with the basics." The woman's eyes flicked from Emily to Nathaniel, clearly trying to figure out their relationship. "Of course. Right this way." 2 hours later, Emily had more clothes than she'd owned in the past 5 years. Jeans that actually fit. Shirts that didn't have holes. A winter coat that would keep her warm. Professional dresses for the office. Shoes that weren't held together with tape and prayer. She kept trying to protest. Nathaniel kept ignoring her. "This is too much," Emily said for the 10th time as he handed his credit card to the cashier. "It's a functional wardrobe for someone who works in Manhattan, that's all. The coat alone costs $3,000. It's cashmere." "That's my point." Nathaniel turned to face her. "Emily, you're about to be my executive assistant. That means you'll be in meetings with investors, board members, clients worth hundreds of millions of dollars. I need you to look the part. This isn't charity, it's professional necessity." He was lying. They both knew it. But Emily let it go because what else could she do? They got lunch at a small Italian place Nathaniel apparently came to all the time. The owner greeted him by name, gave Emily a curious look, and seated them at a quiet table in the back. "You come here a lot?" Emily asked. "Sarah loved this place. We used to come every Sunday." Nathaniel studied the menu he probably had memorized. "After she died, I kept coming. Felt like if I stopped, I'd lose another piece of her." "That's not pathetic, that's love. It's been 3 years. At some point, it stops being love and starts being an inability to move forward." Emily took a sip of water. "Who decides when that point is?" "I don't know. Everyone kept telling me I needed to move on, get back out there, start dating again." He said it like it was a foreign language, like Sarah was just replaceable. "People don't know what to say about death, so they say stupid things." "Yeah," Nathaniel looked at her. "You get it." "I get loss. Maybe not the same kind, but I know what it's like to have your whole life ripped apart and everyone expecting you to just be okay." They ordered, ate, talked about nothing important, favorite movies, books they'd read, places they'd never been. For an hour, They were just two people having lunch. Not a billionaire and a homeless woman. Not an employer and employee. Just two broken people trying to remember how to be human. When they got back to the penthouse, Sophie was already home, bouncing off the walls with preschool energy. "Emily! Emily! Look what I made!" She shoved a finger painting in Emily's face, something that might have been a flower, or possibly an explosion. "It's beautiful," Emily said honestly. "It's for you, because you're my friend now." Emily's throat tightened. She took the painting carefully, like it was made of gold. "Thank you, Sophie. I love it." "Can we have a tea party now?" "Sophie, Emily just got home," Nathaniel started. "It's okay," Emily said quickly. "I'd love to have a tea party." So she spent the afternoon sitting on Sophie's bedroom floor, drinking imaginary tea from plastic cups, listening to a 3-year-old explain the complex social dynamics of her stuffed animal collection. It was ridiculous. It was perfect. Nathaniel appeared in the doorway at some point, watching them with an expression Emily couldn't read. "Daddy, Emily says Mr. Elephant can sit next to Miss Giraffe even though they're from different countries." "That's very progressive of her." Sophie nodded seriously. "Emily's smart." "Yes," Nathaniel said quietly. "She is." Dinner was pizza, Sophie's choice, eaten at the coffee table while they watched a Disney movie Emily had never seen. Sophie fell asleep halfway through, curled against Emily's side like they'd known each other forever. "She doesn't usually warm up to people this fast," Nathaniel said softly. Emily looked down at the sleeping child. "She's special." "She is." He paused. "So are you." Emily didn't know how to respond to that. Didn't know how to process any of this, the kindness, the job, the feeling of being wanted instead of tolerated. Nathaniel carried Sophie to bed. Emily cleaned up the pizza boxes, moving through the kitchen like she belonged there. When he came back, she was standing at the window again, looking out at the city. "You do that a lot," he observed. "What?" "Stand at windows, looking out." Emily shrugged. "When you spend months sleeping rough, having a window feels like a luxury. You're safe now, for now." She turned to face him. "But this isn't real, Nathaniel. This is temporary. People like me don't get to keep things like this." "Why not?" "Because that's not how life works." "Maybe it could be." Emily shook her head. "You don't understand. You've always had safety, always had power. You don't know what it's like to have everything taken away." "My wife died in a car accident while texting me about dinner," Nathaniel said quietly. "I know exactly what it's like to have everything taken away." She flinched. "I'm sorry. I didn't mean—" "It's fine." He poured himself a drink, scotch, expensive. "You're right. I've had privilege, money, power. But loss doesn't care about your bank account. Pain doesn't check your net worth before it destroys you." They stood in silence, two broken people trying to figure out how to exist in the same space. "I'm scared," Emily admitted finally. "I'm scared this is going to fall apart. I'm scared I'll mess up the job. I'm scared Ryan will find me. I'm scared—" Her voice cracked. "I'm scared to hope." "Yeah." Nathaniel took a sip of his drink. "Me too." "What are you scared of?" "Scared that I'm using you to fix myself. That I'm being selfish. That I'm going to hurt you by pretending I can help when really I'm just as broken as you are." Emily looked at him, really looked at him. This billionaire who had everything and felt empty. This father who loved his daughter but didn't know how to show it. This man who'd stopped in the rain because he was tired of being numb. "Maybe we're both broken," she said, "and maybe that's okay." "Is it?" "I don't know, but I'd rather be broken here than broken on the streets." Nathaniel almost smiled. "That's practical." "I'm a practical person." "Are you?" Emily thought about it. "I used to be, before Ryan. I used to have plans, goals. I was going to go back to school, study interior design, create beautiful spaces for people." She laughed bitterly. "Then I spent 4 years with someone who convinced me that wanting anything for myself was selfish. And by the time I escaped, I'd forgotten how to want things." "What do you want now?" The question hung in the air between them. "I want to feel safe," Emily said quietly. "I want to stop jumping at shadows. I want to sleep through the night without nightmares. I want to be a person again instead of just someone who's surviving." "That's a good start." "What do you want?" Nathaniel looked at his daughter's closed door. I want to be the father Sarah would have wanted me to be. I want to feel something besides empty. I want... He stopped. I want to remember what it was like before I built all these walls. Emily stepped closer. Then maybe we can help each other. Maybe. They stood there in the dim light of the penthouse, two strangers who weren't strangers anymore, trying to figure out what came next. I should sleep, Emily said finally. Big day Monday. Yeah. Nathaniel didn't move. Emily? Yeah? Thank you. For what? For saying yes. For staying. For... He struggled for words. For making this place feel less empty. Emily's eyes burned with tears she wouldn't let fall. Thank you for stopping. She went to bed that night in a room that was starting to feel less like a guest room and more like a sanctuary. She hung up the new clothes, folded them carefully, like if she took care of them they might stay real. Then she lay in bed staring at the ceiling and let herself hope. Just a little. The weekend passed in a strange blur. Emily spent Saturday afternoon with Sophie, teaching her how to make cookies while Patricia supervised and Nathaniel worked in his home office. Sunday, she explored the neighborhood, walking streets she'd slept on just days ago, but seeing them differently now. She had a key to the penthouse in her pocket, money for coffee, a place to return to. It felt like magic. It felt terrifying. Sunday night, Nathaniel knocked on her door. Come in. He opened the door, holding a laptop and a phone. These are for you, for work. The phone's on the company plan, laptop set up with everything you'll need. Emily took them carefully. Thank you. Tomorrow's going to be overwhelming, Nathaniel said. My office is chaos. My calendar is a disaster. My previous assistant left detailed notes, but it's still going to be a lot. I can handle it. I know you can. He paused. Emily, if at any point this becomes too much, the job, living here, any of it, you can tell me. No judgment, no consequences. Okay? I mean it. I know. Nathaniel started to leave, then turned back. One more thing. I talked to my head of security. His name's Marcus. He's going to do a quiet background check on Ryan. See if there's any indication he's in New York, any history we should know about, just as a precaution. Emily's blood went cold. You think he's looking for me? I think you deserve to know if he is. She nodded slowly. Thank you. After he left, Emily sat on the bed holding the phone, staring at the blank screen. A new number, a new life. A chance to be someone other than the woman Ryan had tried to destroy. She opened the contacts. There was only one number saved, Nathaniel Hayes. Work. Emily added it to favorites, then set the phone down and tried not to think about all the ways this could still fall apart. That night, she dreamed about rain, about standing in a doorway, waiting for someone to see her. But in the dream, Nathaniel didn't stop. He walked past, and she disappeared into the storm, and she woke up gasping, checking the room to make sure it was still real. The clock read 3:42 a.m. Emily got up, walked to the window, looked out at the city that had almost killed her and was now giving her a second chance. She pressed her hand against the glass, feeling the cold seep through. I'm still here, she whispered to the darkness. I'm still here. And for the first time in 8 months, she believed it might be enough. Monday morning arrived like a judgment. Emily stood in front of the mirror at 6 a.m., wearing one of the new outfits Nathaniel had bought her, a tailored navy dress that actually fit, heels that didn't hurt, makeup she'd borrowed from Patricia. She looked professional, competent, like someone who belonged in a billionaire's office. She looked like a liar. Her hands were shaking so badly, she had to grip the edge of the sink to steady them. What was she doing? She had no experience as an executive assistant, no college degree, no references that weren't 4 years old and connected to a life she'd left behind. 1 week ago, she'd been sleeping in shelters, and now she was supposed to manage the schedule of a man who controlled $40 billion. This was insane. You look terrified. Emily jumped. Nathaniel stood in the doorway, already dressed in a charcoal suit that probably cost more than her entire new wardrobe. I am terrified, she admitted. Good. That means you care. He handed her a cup of coffee. First day's always the worst. After that, it's just regular awful. Despite herself, Emily almost smiled. That's supposed to be encouraging? I'm not good at encouraging. I'm good at honest. They took a car to the office. A glass tower in Midtown that made Emily's stomach drop just looking at it. Hayes. Financial occupied the top 15 floors. Nathaniel's office was on the 47th. The elevator ride felt like falling upward. Breathe, Nathaniel said quietly. I am breathing. You're holding your breath. Emily exhaled shakily. What if I mess this up? Then you'll fix it. That's what the job is. Mess things up. Fix them. Repeat until you figure out what you're doing. The elevator doors opened. The office was already chaos. People in expensive suits moving with purpose, phones ringing, screens glowing with numbers that probably represented someone's entire life savings. Emily felt every eye turn toward her as she walked beside Nathaniel, felt the weight of their curiosity and judgment. Morning, Mr. Hayes. A young man in his 20s appeared, holding a tablet. Your 8 a.m. got pushed to 8:30. Thompson's flight was delayed, and the Goldman meeting needs to be rescheduled. Their CFO has the flu. Thanks, Marcus, Nathaniel gestured to Emily. This is Emily Carter, my new executive assistant. Emily, this is Marcus Webb, my current assistant who's moving to acquisitions. Marcus looked relieved. Thank God. I've been trying to train my replacement for weeks, but no one lasted more than 3 days. Why not? Emily asked before she could stop herself. Mr. Hayes is... Marcus paused diplomatically. Demanding. I prefer efficient, Nathaniel said. You made the last temp cry. She scheduled a board meeting during Sophie's ballet recital. You don't go to Sophie's ballet recitals. That's not the point. Emily looked between them, seeing the easy rapport of people who'd worked together for years. She was stepping into something established, something functional. What if she broke it? Marcus turned to her with sympathy. Come on, I'll show you your desk and try to prepare you for the nightmare you just signed up for. The next 4 hours were a blur of passwords and protocols and a filing system that made no logical sense but apparently worked. Emily took notes frantically, trying to absorb information about Nathaniel's schedule, his preferences, the dozen small things that kept his professional life running. He takes coffee black, no sugar every 2 hours, Marcus explained. He hates phone calls before 9 a.m. unless it's Sophie's school. He has a standing meeting with his financial advisors every Tuesday at 10. Wait, slow down. Emily's head was spinning. How am I supposed to remember all this? You won't. Not at first. You'll mess up. He'll get annoyed. You'll fix it. Eventually it becomes muscle memory. Marcus pulled up a calendar that looked like a Tetris game designed by a sadist. This is his schedule for the week, color-coded by priority. Red is non-negotiable, yellow is flexible, green is optional, but he'll be irritated if you cancel. Emily stared at the screen. There's no white space. Yeah, he doesn't really do downtime. What about lunch? He eats at his desk, usually forgets entirely unless you remind him. Family time? Marcus looked uncomfortable. He tries, but work always... He stopped. Look, Mr. Hayes is brilliant at his job, but he's not great at work-life balance. That's not your problem to fix, though. Your job is just to keep the machine running. But Emily had seen Nathaniel with Sophie, had seen the guilt in his eyes when he talked about being an absent father, had seen how badly he wanted to be better, but didn't know how. What if I want to fix it anyway? She asked quietly. Marcus studied her with new interest. Then you're either very brave or very stupid. I haven't figured out which yet. By noon, Emily's brain felt like it was melting. She'd fielded 17 calls, rescheduled 4 meetings, somehow managed to order lunch for a conference room full of investors without knowing anyone's dietary restrictions, and only cried once in the bathroom. She was calling it a win. Nathaniel appeared at her desk at 2 p.m., looking exhausted. How are you holding up? I scheduled your dentist appointment during a board meeting. I don't have a dentist appointment. I know. I panicked and made one up when someone asked about your afternoon availability. He stared at her. Then, incredibly, he laughed. Cancel the dentist. Keep the board meeting. Already done. See? You're learning. He paused. Come to my office for a minute. Emily followed him into a corner office that was all windows and minimalism. Nathaniel closed the door, shutting out the chaos. Sit. She sat. He leaned against his desk, studying her. You're doing fine, he said. I'm a disaster. You're doing fine for your first day as a disaster. He pulled out his phone, showed her a text. Sophie's recital is Thursday at 3 p.m. It's not on my calendar. Emily checked the calendar on her laptop. You have a meeting with Japanese investors Thursday at 2. Reschedule it. For when? I don't care, just not Thursday at 3. Nathaniel's voice was firm. Sophie's been practicing for weeks. I promised I'd be there. I'm not breaking another promise. Emily felt something shift in her chest. She made a note. Consider it done. Thank you. He rubbed his face, suddenly looking vulnerable. I keep trying to be better at this, at being present, but work always eats everything, Emily finished. Yeah, Marcus mentioned. Marcus talks too much. He's trying to help. They sat in silence for a moment. Through the windows, Manhattan spread out below them, a city of ambition and broken dreams and people trying to survive. Can I ask you something? Emily said. Sure. Why do you work this hard? You have more money than you could spend in 10 lifetimes. You could retire tomorrow. So why the 70-hour weeks? Nathaniel was quiet for a long moment. Because when Sarah died, work was the only thing that made sense. Numbers don't lie. Deals don't leave. Success is measurable. He paused. It's easier to build an empire than to sit in an empty apartment and feel everything I lost. But you're not building an empire anymore. You're maintaining one. There's a difference. Is there? Yeah, one has a purpose. The other is just avoiding pain. Nathaniel looked at her sharply. You've been here one day and you're already analyzing me? Emily flushed. Sorry, I shouldn't. No, you're right. He sat down behind his desk, suddenly looking older than 32. I've been running for 3 years. Running from grief, from loneliness, from having to be a real person instead of just a successful one. And the worst part is I know I'm doing it. I just don't know how to stop. Maybe you start by going to your daughter's recital. Yeah. He smiled slightly. Maybe I do. Emily stood to leave, then hesitated. Nathaniel? Yeah? Thank you for giving me this chance. I know I'm not qualified. I know you're taking a risk, but I'm going to work harder than anyone to prove you didn't make a mistake. I know you will. That's why I hired you. She made it back to her desk before the enormity of it all hit her again. 1 week ago, she'd been sleeping in a doorway. Now she had a job, a home, people who depended on her. It was terrifying. It was everything. The rest of the week passed in a controlled disaster. Emily made mistakes, scheduled meetings wrong, sent emails to incorrect people. Once accidentally ordered $300 worth of sushi for a meeting that had been canceled. But she learned. She adapted. She started to understand the rhythm of Nathaniel's professional life. Thursday arrived too fast. Emily had rescheduled the Japanese investors to Friday morning, confirmed Nathaniel's attendance at Sophie's recital 3 times, and even arranged for flowers to be delivered to the little girl before the show. She felt almost competent. Then her phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number at 2:47 p.m. I know where you are, Emily. We need to talk. The world tilted sideways. Emily stared at the message, her vision tunneling. Ryan. It had to be Ryan. No one else had her new number except Nathaniel and Patricia and Marcus, and her hands started shaking. She stood up abruptly, needing air, needing space, needing to run. The office suddenly felt too small, too exposed. Everyone could see her. Everyone would know. She made it to the bathroom before the panic attack hit. Emily locked herself in a stall, sliding down the wall, trying to breathe through the crushing weight in her chest. He found her. After 8 months of running, of hiding, of trying to disappear, Ryan had found her. How? How had he gotten her number? Did he know where she lived? Was he watching her right now? The bathroom door opened. Heels clicked on tile. Emily? You in here? It was Sarah Chen, one of the junior analysts Emily had met earlier in the week. Kind, sharp, someone who'd gone out of her way to make Emily feel welcome. I'm fine, Emily managed to say. You don't sound fine. You sound like you're having a panic attack. Emily's breath hitched. I just need a minute. Sarah's voice softened. Can I help? No, thank you. I need to be alone. Silence. Then, okay, but if you need anything, I'm at desk 42. The heels clicked away. Emily stayed on the bathroom floor staring at the text message, trying to decide what to do. She could ignore it, pretend she never saw it. Hope Ryan gave up. She could tell Nathaniel, let him handle it. Let someone else fight this battle. She could run. Again. Disappear before Ryan could destroy this fragile new life she was building. Before she could decide, her phone rang. Unknown number. Emily's finger hovered over the decline button. Then, with a steadiness she didn't feel, she answered, "Hello? Emily, finally!" Ryan's voice was exactly as she remembered, smooth, controlled, laced with the kind of charm that hid cruelty. "You're a hard woman to track down. How did you get this number?" "I have my ways. You didn't really think you could just disappear, did you?" Emily's nails dug into her palm. "What do you want?" "To talk. That's all. Just talk. We have nothing to talk about." "I think we do. You left without saying goodbye. You blocked my number. You vanished like I meant nothing to you." His voice hardened. "After 4 years, I deserve more than that." "You deserve nothing." "That's harsh, Em. I thought we were better than that." The casual use of her nickname made Emily's skin crawl. "Don't call me that." "Why not? It's your name." "It's not. Not anymore." Emily stood up, legs shaking. "I'm not the person you tried to make me. I'm not scared of you anymore." Ryan laughed. "Really? Because you sound pretty scared right now. Leave me alone. I just want to see you 5 minutes. That's all." "No." "Emily, be reasonable." "I said no. Don't call this number again. Don't contact me. Don't try to find me. We're done." "You don't get to decide that." "Yes, I do. Goodbye, Ryan." Emily hung up. Her entire body was shaking. She blocked the number with fingers that could barely hold the phone, then leaned against the sink, trying not to vomit. He'd found her. After everything, he'd found her. The bathroom door opened again. This time it was Nathaniel. "Emily." He stopped when he saw her face. What happened? She couldn't speak, couldn't move, could barely breathe. Nathaniel crossed the space between them in 2 strides. "Emily, look at me." She raised her eyes to his. "What happened?" he repeated, gentler this time. "Ryan." The word came out broken. "He texted me, called me. He knows my number, which means he might know where I am, where I work." Okay, slow down." Nathaniel's hands were on her shoulders, steady, grounding. "Tell me exactly what he said." Emily showed him the text, played him the voicemail Ryan had left after she hung up. 3 minutes of increasingly angry rambling about how ungrateful she was, how she owed him, how they weren't finished. Nathaniel's expression went cold. "Did he threaten you?" "Not directly. He never does. He just—" Emily wrapped her arms around herself. "He makes you feel like you're the problem, like you're being unreasonable, like everything is your fault." "Where are you supposed to meet him?" "I'm not." "I told him no." "Good." Nathaniel pulled out his phone. "I'm calling Marcus, our head of security, not my assistant. He'll trace the number, figure out how Ryan got your contact information, make sure our systems are secure." "This is my problem." "No, this is someone harassing my employee. That makes it my problem." His voice was steel. "You're not dealing with this alone." Emily wanted to argue, wanted to insist she could handle it, but the relief of not being alone was so overwhelming she just nodded. Nathaniel made the call, speaking in low, clipped tones. When he hung up, he turned back to Emily. "Marcus is on it. In the meantime, you're not going anywhere alone. I'll have a car take you home tonight. I'll arrange security." "I can't afford security." "I can. And before you argue, this is non-negotiable. Your safety isn't up for debate." Emily felt tears burn behind her eyes. "Why are you doing this?" "Because you matter. Because no one should have to deal with this alone. Because—" He stopped. "Because I couldn't protect Sarah. I couldn't stop the drunk driver or change what happened. But I can protect you, so I'm going to." The vulnerability in his voice broke something in Emily. She stepped forward and hugged him, awkward, desperate, grateful. For a second, Nathaniel froze. Then his arms came around her, holding her together while she fell apart. "I'm scared," she whispered against his shoulder. "I know." "What if he doesn't stop?" "Then we make him stop." They stood there in the bathroom, 2 broken people holding each other up, until Emily's breathing steadied. "You have a recital to get to," she said finally, pulling back. Nathaniel checked his watch. I have 10 minutes. Then go. Sophie needs you there. Are you? I'm fine. Or I will be. Emily straightened her dress, wiped her eyes. Go be a dad. I'll handle things here. He studied her for a long moment. You're stronger than you think. I don't feel strong. Strength isn't about feeling strong. It's about showing up anyway. He headed for the door, then turned back. Emily? After the recital, we're talking about this. All of it. No arguments. Okay. After he left, Emily looked at herself in the mirror. Red eyes, smudged makeup, the face of someone barely holding it together. But she was holding it together. That was something. She went back to her desk, finished the last few tasks of the day, and tried not to think about Ryan's voice on the phone. Tried not to imagine him standing in the lobby downstairs, waiting. At 5 p.m., Marcus, security Marcus, not assistant Marcus, appeared at her desk. Miss Carter? Emily, please. Emily, I'm here to escort you home. We've traced the number your ex used. It's a burner phone purchased yesterday in Newark. No way to track his exact location, but we're monitoring for any activity. So he could be anywhere. Potentially, which is why you're getting a security detail starting tonight. Emily wanted to protest, wanted to say it was too much, too expensive, too dramatic, but fear won out over pride. Thank you, she said quietly. The ride home was silent. Marcus, a former Marine who looked like he could break someone in half, sat in the front while Emily tried not to jump at every car that pulled too close. When they arrived at the penthouse, Patricia was waiting with Sophie. Emily, look! Sophie ran over, still wearing her tutu from the recital. Daddy came. He actually came and he brought flowers and took pictures and everything. Despite everything, Emily smiled. That's wonderful, sweetheart. He said you made it happen, that you're magic. Not magic, just organized. Nathaniel appeared from his office, having changed out of his suit into jeans and a sweater. He looked lighter somehow, like going to his daughter's recital had lifted a weight. We need to talk, he said to Emily. Patricia took Sophie for her bath. Nathaniel led Emily to his office, closed the door, and gestured for her to sit. Marcus briefed me, he said. Burner phone, no traceable location, but the call originated somewhere in the tri-state area. So he's close. Maybe. Or maybe he's trying to scare you from a distance. Nathaniel leaned forward. Either way, here's what we're doing. Security detail whenever you leave the building. New phone number. Keep this one, but don't answer unknown calls. And I want you to document everything. Every text, every call, every time you think you see him. We're building a case. A case for what? A restraining order. Maybe criminal harassment charges, depending on what he does next. Nathaniel's expression was hard. I'm not letting him terrorize you. Emily felt something crack open in her chest. You barely know me. I know enough. But why? Why do you care so much? Nathaniel was quiet for a long moment. 3 years ago, Sarah died because some asshole decided to drive drunk. I couldn't stop it, couldn't save her, couldn't do anything except watch my entire world fall apart. He met Emily's eyes. I can't save Sarah, but I can help you. And maybe that's selfish. Maybe I'm trying to fix my own guilt by protecting you, but I don't care. You're not going through this alone. Emily's vision blurred with tears. I don't know what to say. Say you'll let me help. Okay, yes, okay. They sat in silence, the weight of shared trauma settling between them. Can I ask you something? Emily said finally. Always. What was she like, Sarah? Nathaniel's expression softened. Chaotic. Brilliant. The kind of person who felt everything deeply and didn't apologize for it. She'd cry at commercials and rage at injustice and love people with this fierce protective intensity. He smiled slightly. She would have liked you. How do you know? Because you're a fighter. Sarah loved fighters. He paused. She grew up poor. Single mom, 3 jobs, barely making rent. She understood what it meant to survive. When we met, I was this arrogant finance bro who thought money solved everything. She taught me that some things matter more than profit margins. Like what? Like showing up for the people you love. Like using privilege to help instead of insulate. Like being human instead of just successful. Nathaniel's voice cracked slightly. After she died, I forgot all of it. Went right back to being the arrogant finance bro. And I hate that. I hate who I became. Emily reached across the desk, took his hand. You stopped in the rain. You brought me home. You gave me a job. That's not an arrogant finance bro. That's someone trying to be better. Maybe. Not maybe. Definitely. They sat like that, holding hands across the desk, two broken people trying to figure out how to heal. Sophie burst in without knocking, already in her pajamas. Daddy, Emily, can we watch a movie? Please, please, please. Nathaniel looked at Emily. You up for it? Emily squeezed his hand once before letting go. Yeah, I'm up for it. They watched Frozen for what Patricia said was the 47th time. Sophie knew every word, singing along dramatically while Nathaniel and Emily tried not to laugh. Halfway through, the little girl climbed into Emily's lap like it was the most natural thing in the world. You're cozy, Sophie announced. Thanks? Daddy's cozy too, but you're softer. Nathaniel looked mock offended. I'm plenty soft. You're pointy. I'm not pointy. Your elbows are pointy. Emily couldn't help it. She laughed. For the first time since Ryan's text, she actually laughed. After the movie, after Sophie was in bed, after Patricia had gone home, Nathaniel and Emily sat in the living room with the lights low and the city glowing outside. Thank you, Emily said quietly. For today. For the security. For just being there. You don't have to thank me. Yes, I do. They sat in comfortable silence for a while. Then Emily's new phone buzzed. She flinched, reaching for it automatically. It was just Marcus with a security update. Nothing urgent, but Nathaniel had seen her reaction. It's going to take time, to not jump at every notification, to feel safe again. Yeah, that's okay. Take all the time you need. Emily looked at this man who'd become so important so quickly. This billionaire who was learning to be human again. This father trying to show up for his daughter. This broken person trying to help her heal. What are we doing? She asked softly. What do you mean? This. Us. This whole... Emily gestured vaguely. I'm your employee. I live in your home. You're protecting me from my ex. Nothing about this is normal. Normal's overrated. I'm serious. Nathaniel turned to face her. I don't know what we're doing. I just know that since you walked into my life, I've felt more alive than I have in 3 years. I don't know if that's healthy or unhealthy or completely inappropriate given that you work for me. I just know it's true. Emily's heart was pounding. That scares me. Me too. What if this goes wrong? What if I mess up the job or Ryan escalates or... Then we deal with it, together. You keep saying that, together, but you don't owe me that. You don't owe me anything. Maybe not. Nathaniel's voice was soft. But I want to. Doesn't that count for something? Before Emily could answer, her phone rang. Unknown number. They both froze. Don't answer it, Nathaniel said. But Emily was already staring at the screen, watching it ring, feeling fear claw its way up her throat. What if it was Ryan? What if he was downstairs? What if... The ringing stopped. A voicemail notification appeared. Nathaniel reached over, took the phone gently from her hands. I'll listen to it. You don't have to... Emily, let me. She watched him put the phone to his ear, watched his expression darken as he listened. When he hung up, his jaw was tight. What did he say? Nothing you need to hear. I'm forwarding it to Marcus. We're documenting everything. Nathaniel, he doesn't get to do this to you. His voice was hard. He doesn't get to make you feel unsafe. Not anymore. Emily felt tears threaten again. I'm so tired of being scared. I know. I'm tired of running. I'm tired of looking over my shoulder. I'm tired of letting him have power over me, even when he's not here. Then we take the power back. How? Nathaniel met her eyes. Tomorrow, we're filing for a restraining order. We're documenting everything Ryan's done. We're making it clear that if he comes near you, there will be consequences. What if that makes him angry? What if he... Then we deal with it. But you're not doing this alone. You have me. You have Marcus. You have resources and protection and people who care about you. He paused. You're not the person you were 8 months ago. You're not powerless anymore. Emily wanted to believe him, wanted to believe she could fight back, wanted to believe this nightmare could actually end. Okay, she whispered. Okay, let's do it. They stayed up late, documenting everything. Every text Ryan had sent over the past 8 months, every threatening voicemail, every time he'd shown up at her work before she ran. Building a case, piece by piece, until Emily's eyes burned from crying and exhaustion. "That's enough for tonight," Nathaniel said finally. "Get some sleep." Emily stood, swaying slightly. "Thank you for everything. Stop thanking me." "I can't help it." Nathaniel stood too, close enough that Emily could see the exhaustion in his eyes, the worry he was trying to hide. "You're going to be okay. I promise." "Don't make promises you can't keep." "I'm not." They stood there in the dim light, the city sleeping around them. Two people who'd found each other in a storm and were trying to figure out what came next. Emily went to bed that night with her phone on silent, the door locked, and for the first time since Ryan had texted her, she let herself believe that maybe, just maybe, she could win this fight. Because she wasn't alone anymore. And that changed everything. The restraining order was filed on a Tuesday morning that felt like stepping into a war zone. Emily sat in a sterile conference room at a law firm that occupied 3 floors of a building she'd once walked past without ever imagining she'd be inside. Nathaniel's attorney, a sharp-eyed woman named Rebecca Torres, who looked like she won cases for breakfast, spread documents across the table with practiced efficiency. "This is comprehensive," Rebecca said, scanning through the evidence they'd compiled. "Text messages, voicemails, documented history of emotional abuse. It's enough for a temporary order of protection, and likely a permanent one after the hearing." Emily's hands were shaking. She pressed them flat on the table. "What happens when he gets served?" "He'll be notified that he's required to stay at least 500 feet away from you, your workplace, and your residence. Any violation results in immediate arrest." "That'll make him furious, probably." Rebecca's expression didn't change. "Which is why we're also recommending increased security measures and documentation of any contact attempts." "He's going to see this as a challenge," Emily said quietly. "Ryan doesn't respond well to being told no." Nathaniel, sitting beside her, spoke up. "Then he'll learn that no means no. The hard way if necessary." Rebecca nodded. "Mr. Hayes has already briefed me on the security arrangements. You'll have protection, Ms. Carter. This order gives us legal backing to ensure your safety." Emily signed the papers with hands that wouldn't stop trembling. Each signature felt like both a victory and a target painted on her back. They left the law office an hour later. Emily walked out into the bright October afternoon feeling simultaneously empowered and terrified. "You did the right thing," Nathaniel said as they got into the car. "Then why do I feel like I just made everything worse?" "Because standing up to an abuser is terrifying, but letting him control your life is worse." Emily leaned her head against the window, watching the city slide past. What if the restraining order just pisses him off? What if he decides that if he can't have me, nobody can? Nathaniel's jaw tightened. Then he goes to jail. That doesn't help me if I'm already... She stopped, unable to finish the sentence. "Emily, look at me." She turned to face him. "I'm not letting anything happen to you," Nathaniel said. "I know that sounds arrogant. I know I can't control everything, but I have resources, I have people, and I will use every single advantage I have to keep you safe. This isn't your responsibility. Stop saying that. You're not a responsibility. You're..." He paused, seeming to struggle with words. "You matter. To Sophie, to me. That makes it my responsibility." Emily felt something warm and dangerous bloom in her chest. Something that felt like hope, mixed with fear, mixed with feelings she absolutely could not afford to have for her billionaire boss. They drove back to the office in silence. The rest of the week passed in a strange limbo. Emily threw herself into work, managing Nathaniel's impossible schedule, coordinating meetings, learning the intricate dance of corporate finance. She was getting better at it. The calendar no longer looked like chaos. The phone calls no longer made her panic, but underneath the surface, she was waiting. Waiting for Ryan to be served, waiting for his reaction, waiting for the other shoe to drop. It dropped on Friday afternoon. Emily was at her desk, confirming a dinner meeting for Nathaniel with a group of investors from Singapore, when Marcus appeared. "Ms. Carter, we have a situation." Her blood went cold. "What kind of situation?" "Ryan Mercer was served with the restraining order 2 hours ago at his apartment in Newark. He immediately tried calling your old number 17 times. When that didn't work, he showed up at your previous employer's office looking for you." Emily's vision tunneled. Did he? Security turned him away, but he's escalating. We need to assume he knows you're in Manhattan and will attempt to locate you. Nathaniel appeared from his office, already pulling on his jacket. Emily, you're going home. Now. I have 3 more hours of, I don't care. You're going home with Marcus, you're staying inside, and you're not opening the door for anyone except people you know. Nathaniel, you can't just... Yes, I can. This isn't negotiable. His voice was steel-wrapped in concern. Please, just do this. Emily wanted to argue, wanted to insist she could handle it, but the fear crawling up her spine was stronger than her pride. She went home. The penthouse felt like a cage. Emily paced from window to window, watching the street below, jumping every time a car slowed down. Marcus stationed himself in the lobby. Another security guard, a stoic man named Torres, stood outside the apartment door. Sophie came home from preschool, full of energy and questions. Why is there a man outside our door? He's helping keep us safe, Emily said, trying to sound calm. From what? Emily struggled. How did you explain domestic abuse to a 3-year-old? From bad people. Sophie processed this with the seriousness of a tiny philosopher. Are there bad people? Sometimes, but the good people protect us from them. Are you a good people? Emily's throat tightened. I'm trying to be. Sophie hugged her legs fiercely. You're my favorite good people. When Nathaniel got home at 7, earlier than he'd been home in months, he found Emily and Sophie building a blanket fort in the living room. Sophie was directing the construction with the authority of a tiny general, while Emily tried to make physics cooperate with imagination. This is structural engineering at its finest, Nathaniel observed. Daddy, come help! We need more chairs! He shed his jacket and tie, joined them on the floor, and for an hour they built and rebuilt the fort until it was a masterpiece of pillows and determination. Sophie declared it the palace of no boys allowed, then immediately made an exception for her father. After Sophie was in bed, after Patricia had left for the night with worried glances at Emily, Nathaniel poured 2 glasses of wine and joined Emily on the couch. Any updates? She asked. Ryan's been quiet since the incident at your old work. No attempts to contact you. No sightings near the building. Marcus thinks he's regrouping. Or planning. Maybe. Nathaniel took a sip of wine. How are you holding up? I'm terrified. I'm angry. I'm exhausted. Emily laughed bitterly. But I'm also working for a billionaire, living in a penthouse, and playing with a 3-year-old who thinks I hung the moon. So I'm confused about how to feel. You can be terrified and grateful at the same time. Can you? I think so. I'm terrified something will happen to you, but I'm grateful you're here where I can... He stopped. Where you're safe. Emily looked at him. Really looked at him. This man who'd stopped in the rain 3 weeks ago. The stranger who'd become the most important person in her life without either of them planning it. This is getting complicated, she said softly. What is? Us. This. Whatever this is. Nathaniel set down his wine glass. Yeah, it is. You're my boss. I know. I live in your home. I know. There are about 17 different power dynamics that make anything between us completely inappropriate. I know that too. They sat in silence, the truth hanging between them like something alive and dangerous. But, Emily continued, her voice barely a whisper, when I'm with you, I feel safer than I've felt in years. And when you look at me, I don't feel broken. I feel seen, Nathaniel finished. I know, I feel it too. We can't, I know. It would be unprofessional and, Emily. Nathaniel turned to face her fully. I'm not asking for anything. I'm just acknowledging that something exists here. Something that probably shouldn't exist, but does anyway. What do we do about it? Nothing. For now. You're dealing with Ryan. You're building a new life. You don't need the complication of... He gestured vaguely between them. This. Emily felt relief and disappointment war in her chest. You're right. But, Nathaniel added quietly, when the dust settles. When you're safe and stable and not dependent on me for everything. Maybe then we figure out what this is. Maybe then I'll realize it was just gratitude. Maybe. Or maybe you'll realize it's something else. They didn't touch. Didn't cross any lines. Just sat there acknowledging something neither of them could afford to pursue. The weekend passed quietly. Too quietly. Emily felt like she was waiting for a bomb to detonate. It detonated on Monday morning. Emily arrived at the office at 8:30, coffee in hand, ready to tackle Nathaniel's schedule for the week. The elevator doors opened to chaos. People were clustered in groups, whispering. Phone screens glowed with whatever had captured everyone's attention. Sarah Chen caught Emily's eye and quickly looked away. Emily's stomach dropped. She made it to her desk and opened her email. The top message was from Marcus with the subject line, "Urgent, do not respond." She clicked it. The email contained links to 3 gossip websites. Emily's hand shook as she opened the first one. The headline screamed, "Billionaire Nathaniel Hayes' new mystery woman, from homeless to penthouse in 3 weeks." There were photos. Emily leaving the building with security, Emily and Nathaniel getting lunch, Emily and Sophie in the park over the weekend, captured from a distance by a telephoto lens. The article was brutal. Sources close to Hayes Financial confirmed that Nathaniel Hayes, 32, recently hired a homeless woman as his executive assistant and moved her into his Upper East Side penthouse. Emily Carter, 30, has no college degree, no relevant experience, and was reportedly living in homeless shelters before Hayes took an interest in her. Speculation is running rampant about the true nature of their relationship, with many questioning whether Hayes is exploiting a vulnerable woman or if Carter is taking advantage of a lonely widower. Board members at Hayes Financial have expressed concern about the optics, with one anonymous source stating, "This looks like a midlife crisis, not a business decision." Emily couldn't breathe. The room was spinning. There were more articles, more photos, more speculation about whether she was sleeping with Nathaniel, whether she was after his money, whether this was all some elaborate scam. Her phone started buzzing. Unknown numbers. Journalists, probably. Nathaniel appeared at her desk, his face a mask of controlled fury. "My office. Now." Emily followed him on shaking legs. He closed the door, pulled the blinds. "I'm so sorry," he said immediately. "I should have anticipated this. Should have been more careful about... This is my fault." Emily's voice came out hollow. "I shouldn't have been so visible. Shouldn't have gone out in public with you. Shouldn't have..." "Stop. This is not your fault. Someone leaked your information. Someone took these photos deliberately. This was calculated." "By who?" "I have suspicions." Nathaniel's jaw was tight. "Some board members have been pushing back against my recent decisions. They think I'm being reckless. This gives them ammunition." Emily sank into a chair. "I'm ruining your reputation." "I don't care about my reputation." "You should. You have a company, investors, a daughter who's going to grow up and read this garbage. None of that matters more than your well-being. It has to matter." Emily's voice cracked. You can't sacrifice everything for me. I'm nobody. I'm just some woman you picked up off the street who's causing you nothing but problems." Nathaniel crossed the room, knelt in front of her chair. "Look at me." She did. "You are not nobody," he said fiercely. "You are not just some woman. You're someone who survived hell and came out fighting. You are someone my daughter adores. You are someone who makes me remember what it feels like to be human." He paused. "And you are someone I care about more than I care about what some gossip website says. The board can deal with it. I own controlling shares. They can complain all they want, but they can't actually do anything." "What about Sophie? What about when she's older and kids at school find these articles? Then I'll explain that I hired someone who needed help and gave her a chance. That's all this is. That's all it needs to be." But Emily could see the worry in his eyes, the calculation of damage control, the understanding that this was going to get worse before it got better. "I should leave," she said quietly. "Find my own place. Quit the job. Let this blow over." "No." "Nathaniel." "I said no. You're not leaving because some vultures decided to make your life entertainment. You're not letting them win." "What if this is Ryan?" Emily's voice dropped to a whisper. "What if he leaked this? What if this is his way of..." She didn't finish the sentence, but they both understood. This was exactly the kind of psychological warfare Ryan excelled at. Public humiliation, isolation, making her feel like a burden. Nathaniel pulled out his phone, dialed. "Marcus, I need you to investigate who leaked Emily's information to the press. I want names by end of day. He paused. And check if Ryan Mercer has any connection to the journalists who published these stories. After he hung up, Nathaniel stood. You're taking the rest of the day off. Go home. Don't read the comments. Don't engage with anyone trying to contact you. I can work. Emily, please, just go home. She went home. The elevator ride felt like a walk of shame. The lobby security guard wouldn't meet her eyes. Marcus, waiting to escort her upstairs, looked sympathetic in a way that made everything worse. In the penthouse, Emily collapsed on her bed and let herself cry. 3 weeks ago, she'd been nobody. Invisible. Below notice. Now she was a headline. A scandal. A problem. Her phone buzzed. Against her better judgment, she looked. A text from an unknown number. Enjoying your 15 minutes of fame? Should have stayed invisible. R. Ryan. Of course it was Ryan. Emily hurled her phone across the room, heard it crack against the wall. Then she curled into a ball and sobbed until she had nothing left. She must have fallen asleep because when she woke up, it was dark outside and someone was knocking softly on her door. Emily, it's Patricia. Can I come in? Yeah. Patricia entered carrying a tray with soup and tea. She set it on the nightstand, then sat on the edge of the bed. Those articles are garbage, she said bluntly. Anyone with eyes can see you're good for this family. The whole city thinks I'm a gold digger. The whole city thinks a lot of stupid things. Doesn't make them true. Patricia poured tea with steady hands. Mr. Hayes is a good man, but before you came, he was a ghost, just going through the motions. Sophie barely saw him. Now he comes home for dinner, goes to recitals, plays blanket forts. She handed Emily the cup. That's not nothing. But the board can kiss my ass, and Patricia's language was so unexpected that Emily actually laughed. Sorry, but it's true. They're rich men afraid of anything that reminds them money doesn't solve everything. Emily sipped the tea. It was perfectly sweetened, exactly how she liked it. She hadn't told Patricia that. The woman had just paid attention. I don't know how to do this, Emily admitted. How to be under this microscope. How to handle everyone judging me. You keep showing up. You keep doing your job. You keep being kind to Sophie and helpful to Mr. Hayes, and eventually people find someone else to gossip about. Patricia paused. Or you could always leak something more scandalous. I could tell them about my affair with the mayor. You're not having an affair with the mayor? They don't know that. This time Emily really laughed. Thank you. For this. For being kind when you could have judged me too. Honey, I've worked for rich families for 30 years. I've seen real gold diggers. You're not one of them. Patricia stood. Now, eat your soup. Mr. Hayes will be home soon and he's been worried sick. After Patricia left, Emily ate mechanically, then retrieved her broken phone from across the room. The screen was cracked, but it still worked. She had 47 missed calls, 63 text messages, most from journalists. But one was from Marcus, found the leak, calling Mr. Hayes now. Emily waited, heart pounding. 10 minutes later, Nathaniel burst through the door. It was Victoria Chen. Who? Board member. She's been pushing to have me removed as CEO, claims I'm too emotionally unstable after Sarah's death. She hired a private investigator to follow you, then leaked everything to the press. His expression was cold fury. She's done. I'm forcing her off the board. Can you do that? I own 52% of the company. I can do whatever I want. He sat beside her on the bed. I'm sorry. This is my fault. I should have protected you better. You can't protect me from everything. I can try. They sat in silence. Then Emily asked the question she'd been avoiding. What about the Ryan connection? Marcus is still investigating, but the timing is suspicious. Victoria Chen started her investigation 3 days after you moved in. Ryan started contacting you 2 days after that. Could be coincidence. Or they could be working together. Maybe. Nathaniel's phone buzzed. He checked it, then showed Emily the screen. An email from Rebecca Torres. Temporary restraining order granted. Permanent hearing scheduled in 2 weeks. Mercer has been notified. At least there's that, Emily said. But she couldn't shake the feeling that something worse was coming. The feeling proved correct the next morning. Emily was getting ready for work when Sophie appeared in her doorway, holding her tablet. Emily, why are people saying mean things about you on here? Emily's blood froze. What? Sophie showed her the screen. She'd somehow found one of the gossip articles. Must have heard adults talking about it and searched. They're saying you're a bad person, but you're not bad. You make Daddy smile. Emily knelt down to Sophie's level, taking the tablet gently. Sometimes people say things that aren't true, especially on the internet. But why? Because how did you explain cruelty to a child? Because some people like to hurt others. It makes them feel powerful. That's mean. Yeah, it is. Sophie hugged her fiercely. I think you're wonderful. Daddy thinks so too. Thank you, sweetheart. After Sophie left, Emily sat on the floor of her room trying to figure out what to do. She couldn't keep exposing this family to scandal. Couldn't keep dragging them into her mess. She made a decision. That afternoon, while Nathaniel was in a meeting, Emily wrote a letter of resignation. Professional. Gracious. Giving 2 weeks' notice. She left it on his desk. Then she started packing. She made it halfway through her clothes before Nathaniel found her. What are you doing? Emily didn't turn around. What does it look like? It looks like you're running. I'm protecting you. I don't need protection. I need you to stay. Nathaniel, Emily finally faced him. I'm destroying your reputation. I'm exposing Sophie to scrutiny. I'm causing board problems. Everything would be easier if I just left. Easier for who? For everyone. Not for me. Nathaniel crossed the room. Not for Sophie. Not for you, honestly, because where are you going to go? I'll figure it out. With what money? You've been here 3 weeks. You haven't gotten a paycheck yet. Then I'll go back to shelters. Like hell you will. His voice was sharp. You are not going back to that life because some gossip columnist decided to make you their target. This isn't just about the articles, Emily's voice broke. Ryan texted me again, said this was just the beginning, said he has more planned. As long as I'm near you, near Sophie, I'm putting you both in danger. Nathaniel went very still. Show me. She pulled out her phone, new one, Marcus had given her a replacement, and showed him the messages. 3 texts, each more threatening than the last. Enjoying the attention? This is just Act 1. Wait until they find out the rest. You can run to your billionaire all you want. Won't matter when he realizes what you really are. What does that mean? Nathaniel asked. What rest? I don't know. But Ryan always has a plan. Always finds a way to make you feel small, even when you think you've escaped. Emily's hands were shaking. I can't let him destroy your life too. He won't. You can't promise that. Then I'll do everything in my power to make sure it's true. Nathaniel took her hands. Emily, listen to me. Running doesn't solve this. It just lets Ryan win. It lets Victoria Chen and every other vulture who wants to tear you down win. But if you stay, we fight. Together. We get the permanent restraining order. We deal with the board. We weather the gossip until something else becomes the story. He paused. And you keep being the person who makes Sophie laugh, and my life less empty, and this penthouse feel like a home instead of a museum. Tears streamed down Emily's face. I'm scared. I know. I'm scared too. But I'm not letting you face this alone. There was a small voice from the doorway. Emily's leaving? They both turned. Sophie stood there, clutching her stuffed elephant, looking devastated. No, Nathaniel said firmly, looking at Emily. Emily's not leaving, right? Emily looked at this little girl who'd given her finger paintings and declared her a good people. Looked at this man who'd stopped in the rain when no one else would. Looked at this life that terrified her and gave her hope in equal measure. Right, she whispered. I'm not leaving. Sophie ran to her, wrapping small arms around her waist. Good, because I love you. The words hit Emily like a physical blow. She looked at Nathaniel over Sophie's head, saw something in his expression that mirrored what she was feeling. They were in too deep, all of them, and there was no safe way out, only through. Sophie's declaration hung in the air like something fragile and irreversible. Emily knelt down, gathering the little girl into her arms, and felt something inside her chest crack open completely. This child loved her. This broken, scared woman who'd spent months running from everything was being loved by a 3-year-old who didn't know that love was supposed to be conditional. I love you too, sweetheart, Emily whispered, and meant it with a fierceness that terrified her. Nathaniel watched them with an expression Emily couldn't quite read, something between relief and fear, and something else she didn't dare name. After Patricia took Sophie for her bath, Nathaniel and Emily sat in his office, the resignation letter torn into pieces in the trash can between them. "We need a plan," Nathaniel said, "a real one, not just reacting to whatever Ryan or the press throws at us next." "What kind of plan?" "The permanent restraining order hearing is in 2 weeks. Until then, we go completely dark. No public appearances together. You work from home if you're comfortable with it, or from the office, but we're careful about being seen together. We give the gossip nothing to feed on." Emily nodded slowly. "And Victoria Chen?" "I'm handling her, quietly. She violated a dozen corporate policies by hiring someone to investigate you. Her seat on the board is already gone. I'm just deciding how much legal action to take." "Won't that make things worse? Make it look like you're trying to protect me?" "I don't care how it looks. She crossed a line." Nathaniel's voice was hard. "But you're right that we need to be strategic. So here's what I'm thinking. We let her resignation be about corporate restructuring. Keep it clean, professional. Don't give her ammunition to play victim." "And Ryan?" "Rebecca's building a case. Every text, every call, every violation of the temporary order. By the time we get to that hearing, we'll have enough evidence to bury him legally." Emily wanted to believe it would be that simple. Wanted to believe that restraining orders and lawyers and money could solve everything. But she knew Ryan, knew how he thought, knew that legal consequences had never stopped him from doing what he wanted. The next 2 weeks were the longest of Emily's life. She worked from the penthouse mostly, managing Nathaniel's schedule remotely, coordinating with Marcus, the assistant who was grateful to finally move into acquisitions. The work was easier now that she understood the rhythm of it. She was good at this job. That realization still surprised her, but underneath the routine she was constantly waiting for Ryan to show up, waiting for another scandal to break, waiting for the fragile safety she'd built to shatter. Sophie was her anchor. The little girl didn't care about gossip or restraining orders or corporate drama. She just wanted someone to play dolls with, someone to read her bedtime stories, someone to make funny voices during dinner. Being needed by Sophie made Emily feel human again in a way nothing else had. One evening, while Nathaniel was working late and Patricia had the night off, Emily found herself alone with Sophie after dinner. "Can we make cookies?" Sophie asked. "It's almost bedtime." "Please? Just small ones?" Emily looked at this child with her mother's dark hair and her father's serious eyes and couldn't say no. They made cookies, chocolate chip. Sophie stood on a stool helping measure ingredients, getting flour everywhere, talking nonstop about her day at preschool. "Madison said her daddy has a new girlfriend and she doesn't like her because she's not her mommy," Sophie said, mixing with intense concentration. Emily's chest tightened. "That sounds hard for Madison." "Yeah." Sophie looked up. "Are you daddy's girlfriend?" "No, sweetheart, I work for your daddy." "But you live here." "Because your daddy is helping me while I get back on my feet." Sophie considered this with her usual seriousness. "Do you like my daddy?" Emily's hands stilled over the cookie dough. "Of course I do. Your daddy is a very good man. Do you like him? Like how Mommy liked him?" "Sophie." "Because it's okay if you do. Mommy's in heaven and she can't come back even though I asked." Sophie's voice went small. "And Daddy's been sad for so long, but he's not as sad now. He smiles more. Because of you." Emily's eyes burned with tears. She pulled Sophie into a hug, cookie dough forgotten. "Your daddy smiles because of you," she said gently. "You're the most important person in his whole world. But you make him smile different, like how he smiled in the pictures with Mommy." Before Emily could respond, the front door opened. Nathaniel's voice called out, "Something smells good." He appeared in the kitchen doorway, loosening his tie, looking exhausted but lighter than usual. "We made cookies," Sophie announced. "Emily said we could even, though it's almost bedtime." "Did she now?" Nathaniel raised an eyebrow at Emily. "I'm a bad influence," Emily said, grateful for the interruption. "The worst." But he was smiling. "Can bad influences share their cookies?" They ate warm cookies at the kitchen counter, the three of them, and for a moment everything felt almost normal, like they were a family instead of a complicated mess of employer and employee and child and trauma and feelings no one was supposed to have. After Sophie was in bed, Emily cleaned the kitchen while Nathaniel disappeared into his office. She was putting away the last dish when he reappeared. Sophie asked you if you were my girlfriend. Emily froze. You heard that? Thin walls. He leaned against the doorframe. What did you tell her? The truth. That I work for you. Is that the truth? Emily turned to face him. What else would it be? I don't know, Emily. You tell me. Nathaniel crossed the room, stopping close enough that she could see the exhaustion in his eyes, the tension in his shoulders. Because for the past 2 weeks, we've been pretending there's nothing here except professional courtesy. But my daughter sees it. Patricia sees it. I'm pretty sure Marcus sees it. And I know I feel it every time I come home and you're here and this place feels less empty. We can't. I know all the reasons we can't. I've listed them 100 times. You work for me. You live in my home. You're dealing with an abusive ex. The power dynamics are a nightmare. The timing is terrible. He paused. But none of that changes what I feel. Emily's heart was pounding. What do you feel? Like I'm waking up after being asleep for 3 years. Like the part of me that died with Sarah is trying to figure out how to be alive again. His voice dropped. Like you're not just someone I hired or someone I'm helping. Like you're... Don't. Emily's voice cracked. Don't say it. Because if you say it, everything changes. And I can't. I'm not ready for everything to change. When will you be ready? I don't know. Maybe never. Maybe when Ryan's permanently out of my life and I'm not living in your home and I have my own money and my own space and I'm not this broken thing you rescued from the rain. You're not a broken thing. Yes, I am. I'm broken and scared and so damaged that I can't even accept that someone might actually care about me without waiting for the catch. Nathaniel reached out, tucked a strand of hair behind her ear. The gesture was so tender that Emily almost started crying. There's no catch, he said quietly. Just two broken people trying to figure out how to be less broken together. That's not fair to you. Let me decide what's fair to me. They stood there in the dim kitchen, close enough to cross a line, smart enough not to. The moment stretched between them like a promise neither was ready to make. Finally, Emily stepped back. I should go to bed. Big day tomorrow. The hearing. Yeah, Nathaniel nodded. Rebecca will be there. I'll be there. You're not facing him alone. I know. She started to leave, then turned back. Nathaniel? Yeah? Thank you. For everything. For stopping. For staying. For... Her voice broke. For making me believe I deserve better. You do deserve better. You always did. Emily went to her room and lay awake for hours, staring at the ceiling, trying not to think about what Nathaniel had almost said, trying not to think about what she'd almost let herself feel. The hearing was scheduled for 2 p.m. in a courthouse in downtown Manhattan. Emily dressed carefully that morning, one of the professional outfits Nathaniel had bought her, makeup that Patricia helped apply, hair pulled back in a way that made her look older, more composed than she felt. She looked like someone who had her life together. She felt like she was going to vomit. Nathaniel drove them himself. No driver, just the two of them and Marcus following in a separate car for security. How are you holding up? Nathaniel asked. Terrified. Good answer. Better than fine. Is it? At least it's honest. Rebecca met them at the courthouse steps. She looked sharp and dangerous in a way that made Emily feel slightly safer. Ryan's attorney is here, Rebecca said without preamble. Cheap suit, aggressive posture, already tried to get the case dismissed on a technicality. Judge shut him down. What about Ryan? Emily asked. Hasn't arrived yet. He's required to be here, so he'll show. They went through security, took the elevator to the 3rd floor, sat on hard benches outside the courtroom. Emily's hands wouldn't stop shaking. Nathaniel sat beside her, close, but not touching, a steady presence. Then Ryan walked around the corner. Emily's entire body went rigid. She hadn't seen him in 8 months, hadn't heard his voice except through threatening phone calls, hadn't been in the same physical space since the night she'd run. He looked exactly the same. Same confident walk, same expensive haircut, even though he couldn't actually afford it. Same smile that had once made her feel special and now made her feel sick. Ryan saw her and his smile widened. Emily, you look good. Better than the last time I saw you. Nathaniel stood immediately, putting himself between them. You're violating the temporary order by approaching her. I'm just saying hello to my girlfriend. Ex-girlfriend, Emily said, finding her voice. And you're supposed to stay 500 feet away. We're in a courthouse. Different rules. Ryan's lawyer, a weaselly man in an ill-fitting suit, appeared beside him. My client has a right to defend himself against these baseless accusations. Baseless? Rebecca stepped forward, holding a folder thick with evidence. We have 17 documented violations of the temporary order, 53 harassing text messages, 27 threatening voicemails, and a witness who saw your client surveilling Ms. Carter's workplace. Ryan's smile never wavered. I was in the neighborhood. 17 times? It's a free country. The bailiff appeared. Case 47829, Carter versus Mercer. We're ready for you. The courtroom was smaller than Emily expected. More intimate. More terrifying. She sat at a table with Rebecca while Ryan sat across the aisle with his lawyer. Nathaniel had to sit in the gallery. He wasn't a party to the case, but Emily could feel his presence behind her, solid and reassuring. The judge was a woman in her 60s with sharp eyes and no patience for nonsense. This is a hearing for a permanent order of protection, she began. Ms. Carter is the petitioner, Mr. Mercer is the respondent. Ms. Torres, present your case. Rebecca stood. She was brilliant. She laid out 4 years of emotional abuse with clinical precision, presented evidence of Ryan's controlling behavior, showed texts where he'd threatened Emily, tracked her movements, contacted her workplace. Then she called Emily to testify. Emily walked to the stand on shaking legs, placed her hand on the Bible, even though she didn't know if she believed in anything anymore except survival, swore to tell the truth. Rebecca asked questions gently. Emily answered, her voice getting stronger as she went. Yes, Ryan had controlled her finances. Yes, he'd isolated her from friends and family. Yes, he'd made her feel worthless. Yes, she'd been terrified to leave. Ryan's lawyer cross-examined her aggressively. Isn't it true, Ms. Carter, that you lived rent-free in my client's apartment for 4 years? Yes. And he supported you financially? He controlled every dollar I spent, yes. But he provided for you. He made me dependent. There's a difference. Isn't it also true that you're now living with a billionaire? In his penthouse? Rebecca objected. Relevance? I'm establishing a pattern of the petitioner seeking financial support from wealthy men. The judge frowned. I'll allow it, but tread carefully, counselor. Emily's hands clenched. I work for Mr. Hayes. I earn a salary. I'm not seeking support. I'm building a life. By moving in with your employer? By accepting help when I needed it. Something your client never offered without strings attached. Ryan's lawyer smiled like he'd scored a point. So you admit there are strings attached to your current living arrangement? Objection! Rebecca was on her feet. The witness didn't say that. Sustained. Jury will disregard. But there was no jury, just a judge who'd seen this 1,000 times. They broke for lunch. Emily made it to the bathroom before breaking down. Rebecca found her 10 minutes later, mascara running, hands shaking. You did good in there, Rebecca said. His lawyer made me sound like a gold digger. His lawyer is grasping at straws. The evidence is overwhelming. The judge knows it. We're going to win this. And if we don't, we will. But Emily had learned not to trust certainty. The afternoon session was Ryan's turn to testify. He was charming, reasonable, painted himself as a concerned boyfriend worried about his girlfriend's mental health. Emily has always been fragile, he said, voice dripping with false concern. After her parents died, she struggled. I tried to help. Gave her a place to stay, financial stability, but she became increasingly paranoid, started accusing me of things I never did. Emily wanted to scream, wanted to stand up and call him a liar, but Rebecca had warned her to stay calm, stay quiet, let the evidence speak. Rebecca cross-examined him viciously. Mr. Mercer, if you were so concerned about Miss Carter's well-being, why did you contact her 73 times after she explicitly asked you to stop? I was worried about her. Were you worried when you showed up at her former workplace 17 times? I wanted to make sure she was okay. Were you worried when you sent her a text saying, you can run but you can't hide? Ryan's smile faltered. I don't recall that specific text. Rebecca pulled out a printed copy. Here it is, September 23rd, 2:17 a.m. Want me to read more? The judge intervened. I think we have enough testimony. I'm ready to make a ruling. Emily's heart stopped. The judge looked at both of them over her glasses. I've seen a lot of these cases. I've heard a lot of men claim they were just concerned, that they were trying to help, that their ex-girlfriends were unstable. She paused. Mr. Mercer, your testimony doesn't match the evidence. The documented contact attempts alone are sufficient for a permanent order. Ryan's face went red. Your Honor, I'm not finished. The emotional abuse Ms. Carter described is consistent with coercive control. The financial manipulation, the isolation, the degradation, these are textbook abuse tactics. The judge's voice was steel. I'm granting a permanent order of protection. Mr. Mercer, you are to stay a minimum of 1,000 feet from Ms. Carter. No contact of any kind, no third-party contact, no social media, no showing up at her workplace or residence. Any violation will result in immediate arrest and criminal charges. Emily couldn't breathe, couldn't process what she was hearing. Furthermore, the judge continued, I'm recommending that the district attorney's office review this case for potential stalking charges. The pattern of behavior here goes beyond civil violations. Ryan stood up abruptly. This is bullshit. She's lying. She's just after his money, and you're... Mr. Mercer, sit down and be quiet, or I'll hold you in contempt. Ryan's lawyer pulled him back into his seat, whispering urgently. The judge signed the order. We're adjourned. Emily sat frozen until Rebecca touched her arm. Emily, we won. We won? You won. It's over. Emily turned to look at Ryan. He was staring at her with pure hatred, mouthing words she couldn't hear but could guess. His lawyer was packing up quickly, probably trying to get his client out before he did something stupid. Nathaniel appeared at Emily's side. Let's go. Now. They left through a side exit, Rebecca running interference with the few journalists who'd caught wind of the hearing. Marcus had the car waiting. Emily didn't cry until they were safely inside the vehicle, pulling away from the courthouse. Then she sobbed. Great heaving sobs that felt like they were tearing her apart. All the fear, all the tension, all the months of running and hiding and being terrified, it poured out of her in waves. Nathaniel held her, didn't say anything, just held her while she fell apart. It's really over, she managed to say. It's really over. He can't contact me? Not without going to jail. He looks so angry. Let him be angry. He lost. You won. Emily pulled back, wiping her eyes. I won. Yeah, you did. They drove home in silence. Emily stared out the window, watching the city slide past, and felt something shift inside her chest. She was safe. Actually safe. For the first time in years, she could breathe without looking over her shoulder. When they got back to the penthouse, Sophie was waiting with Patricia. Did you win? Sophie asked immediately. Yeah, sweetheart, we won. Sophie cheered and hugged her fiercely. I knew you would. You're the bravest person I know. Emily looked at Nathaniel over Sophie's head. He was watching them with that expression again, the one that made her chest feel too tight and her heart feel too full. That night, after Sophie was asleep, after Patricia had gone home with a knowing smile, Emily and Nathaniel sat on the balcony overlooking the city. What happens now? Emily asked. What do you want to happen? Emily stopped, started again. I want to figure out who I am when I'm not running, when I'm not scared, when I'm just me. That sounds like a good plan. I want to go back to school, study interior design like I always planned, use the money I'm earning to build something that's mine. You should. I want to find my own place eventually, not because I don't, she gestured vaguely, not because I don't appreciate everything, but because I need to know I can stand on my own. I understand. And Emily turned to face him. I want to see where this goes, this thing between us. But I need time. I need to figure out who I am first. Nathaniel nodded slowly. How much time? I don't know. Months, maybe? Is that okay? Emily, you can have all the time you need. I've waited 3 years to feel anything. I can wait a little longer to do it right. She reached over, took his hand. Thank you for everything, for stopping in the rain, for giving me a job, for protecting me, for... Her voice broke. For seeing me when everyone else just looked past. You're impossible to look past. They sat there holding hands, watching the city lights, two broken people who'd found each other in a storm and were slowly learning how to heal. The next 6 months changed everything. Emily enrolled in a night program at Parsons, studying interior design. She was terrified the first day, convinced she didn't belong, convinced everyone would see her as the charity case who got in through connections. Then she aced her first project and realized she was actually good at this. Better than good. She had a vision for spaces that made people feel safe, feel seen, feel home. She stayed working as Nathaniel's executive assistant, but started taking on small design projects on the side. A friend of Patricia's needed help with her apartment, then another client, then another. She saved money, found a small studio apartment in Brooklyn that she could almost afford. Nathaniel offered to help with the deposit, and she almost refused on principle, but Rebecca, who'd become a friend, told her to stop being stubborn and accept help when it was freely given. So she did. Moving out of the penthouse was harder than Emily expected. Sophie cried. Patricia got misty-eyed. Nathaniel helped her pack with an expression that tried to be supportive but mostly looked sad. "You'll still come for dinner, right?" Sophie asked, clutching Emily's hand. "Every week, I promise." "And you'll help me with my school project?" "Already on my calendar." Sophie hugged her fiercely. "I'm going to miss you being here every morning." "I'm going to miss you too, sweetheart." After Sophie went to bed, Nathaniel walked Emily through her mostly empty room one last time. "You sure about this?" he asked. "I need to do this. Need to prove I can." "You don't have to prove anything to anyone." "I have to prove it to myself." He nodded, understanding in a way that made Emily love him even more. Not that she'd said those words out loud yet. That was still too scary, too big, too likely to jinx everything. But she felt it. The studio apartment was tiny. The neighborhood was loud. The building had questionable plumbing and a super who barely spoke English. It was perfect. Emily made it her own, painted the walls, found furniture at thrift stores and refinished it, created a space that was entirely hers. No borrowed elegance, no borrowed safety, just her own four walls and her own choices. Nathaniel visited once, looked around the 400-square-foot space, and said, "It's very you." Is that a polite way of saying it's small? It's a way of saying it feels like home. The penthouse never really did, even when Sarah was alive. Too much space, too much, he gestured. Too much everything. This feels real. Emily kissed him then. First time she'd initiated it. First time she'd let herself cross that line without fear of what it meant. He kissed her back like she was something precious, like she was someone worth waiting for. They took it slow. Slower than slow. Dinners once a week, coffee dates, long walks through neighborhoods where no one knew who Nathaniel Hayes was. He was just Nathaniel, funny, awkward sometimes, still grieving but learning how to live again. Emily was just Emily, still healing but no longer broken, still scared sometimes but no longer running. Victoria Chen's resignation from the Hayes Financial Board had been quiet but permanent. The gossip articles faded when a celebrity divorce became the new scandal. Ryan disappeared from Emily's life completely. One attempt to contact her via a fake social media account resulted in his arrest and a month in jail for violating the restraining order. After that, silence. Sophie started kindergarten. She asked Emily to come to her first day, and Emily took off work to be there. Watched this little girl who'd declared her a good people walk bravely into her classroom and felt her heart expand in ways she didn't know were possible. "She loves you," Patricia said, watching beside her. "I love her too." "I know, so does her father." Emily looked at her. "What?" Patricia smiled. "Child, I've worked for that family for 3 years. I know what love looks like, and I see it every time Mr. Hayes looks at you." Emily's chest tightened. "It's complicated. Love usually is, doesn't make it less real." That night, Nathaniel picked Emily up from her apartment. They were going to a gallery opening, some artist Emily had never heard of, but Nathaniel thought she'd appreciate. In the car, he was nervous. Emily could tell from the way he kept adjusting his tie. "You okay?" she asked. "Yeah, just thinking." "About what?" He didn't answer until they were parked outside the gallery. Then he turned to face her. "I love you," he said. No preamble, no preparation, just the truth. Emily's breath caught. "I know we're taking things slow," Nathaniel continued. "I know you need time and space and independence. I'm not asking you to move back in or change anything. I need you to know. I love you. Not because you work for me or because you're good with Sophie or because you make me feel less empty. I love you because you're brave and broken and fighting like hell to build something real. I love you because you make me want to be better. I love you because... He stopped. Because I do. That's all, Emily felt tears stream down her face. You can't just say that? Why not? Because now I have to say it back, and that's terrifying. You don't have to say anything. Yes, I do. Emily reached over, took his face in her hands. I love you too. I've loved you since that first night when you gave me your jacket and didn't ask for anything in return. I've loved you through every single moment of the past 7 months. And it terrifies me because everyone I've ever loved has either died or hurt me, and I don't know how to trust that you won't. I won't. You can't promise that. No, but I can promise to try every single day, to choose you, to see you, to be the person you deserve. Emily kissed him. Not gentle this time, not tentative. Kissed him like she meant it, like she was claiming it, like she was finally letting herself believe this could be real. When they pulled apart, Nathaniel was smiling. So we're doing this? Yeah, we're doing this. What does that mean exactly? I don't know. We figure it out as we go. Emily wiped her eyes. But I'm done being scared. I'm done running. I'm staying for real this time. Good, because I'm not letting you go. They missed the gallery opening. Sat in the car talking for hours instead. About Sarah and what it meant to love again after loss. About Ryan and what it meant to trust again after abuse. About building something new from the wreckage of their pasts. 3 months later, Emily graduated from her interior design program. Top of her class. She'd been terrified to give her final presentation, a proposal to redesign the penthouse to feel less like a museum and more like a home. Nathaniel had sat in the audience, Sophie on his lap, and watched her present with an expression of pure pride. After the ceremony, Sophie ran up with a bouquet of flowers almost bigger than she was. You did it! You graduated! Emily scooped her up, flowers and all. I did. Does this mean you're going to redesign our apartment? If your dad says yes. He already said yes. He says yes to everything you want. Nathaniel appeared looking sheepish. She's not wrong. Emily laughed. I haven't even officially pitched it to you yet. You presented it to a room full of professors and industry professionals. I think I'm a softer sell. So Emily redesigned the penthouse, kept some of Sarah's choices, the pieces that Nathaniel wasn't ready to change, updated others, created a space that honored the past but made room for the future, a space where Sophie could be messy and loud without worrying about breaking something priceless, a space where Nathaniel could relax instead of feeling like he was living in a showroom, a space that felt like a home. The night they finished the final room, Nathaniel opened a bottle of champagne. To new beginnings, he said. To new beginnings, Emily echoed. They were standing in the newly redesigned living room, warm colors, comfortable furniture, photos on the walls of Sophie's artwork, and family moments. The floor-to-ceiling windows still showcased the Manhattan skyline, but now the space around them felt lived in, loved, real. I want to ask you something, Nathaniel said. Emily's heart jumped. Okay, move back in. Not as my employee, not as someone I'm helping, as my partner, as Sophie's... He paused. As family. Emily felt tears prick her eyes. Nathaniel, I know we said slow. I know you needed your independence, but you've built that. You have your own career, your own money, your own choices. This isn't about me rescuing you anymore. This is about choosing to build something together. What about Sophie? What does she think about this? Are you kidding? She's been asking me when you're moving back for 6 months. He pulled out his phone, showed her a video. Sophie's face filled the screen. Emily, Daddy wants to ask you to live with us again, but he's too scared. Can you please say yes? I miss you being here every morning. Also, I need help with my science project, and FaceTime isn't the same. Love you, bye. Emily laughed through tears. She's manipulative. She learned from the best. Nathaniel put the phone away. So, what do you say? Emily looked around the space she'd created, looked at this man who'd stopped in the rain when everyone else had walked past, looked at the life they'd built from the wreckage of their individual pasts. Yes, she said. Yes, I'll move back in. Nathaniel's face broke into the biggest smile she'd ever seen. He pulled her into his arms, lifted her off her feet, spun her around like they were in some romantic movie, except this was real. This was happening. This was her actual life. "I love you," he said against her hair. "I love you too." They told Sophie the next morning. She screamed so loud that Patricia came running, thinking someone was hurt. "Emily's moving back! Emily's moving back!" Sophie danced around the kitchen. "This is the best day ever." "Better than your birthday?" Nathaniel teased. "Way better. Birthdays happen every year. Emily only moves back once." Emily moved her things back gradually over the next month. The studio apartment she'd fought so hard for became her office, a space to meet clients, to work on designs, to remember that she was capable of standing on her own. But home was the penthouse. Home was Nathaniel and Sophie and Patricia's knowing smiles. Home was blanket forts and late-night conversations, and waking up next to someone who chose her every single day. 1 year after the night Nathaniel had stopped in the rain, Emily stood at the window of the penthouse looking out at the city. So much had changed. She had a career she loved, a family she'd never expected, a life built on her own choices instead of someone else's control. Sophie appeared at her side, now 4 years old and impossibly wise. "What are you thinking about?" the little girl asked. "How different everything is from a year ago." "Is different good?" Emily smiled, pulling Sophie into a hug. "Yeah, sweetheart, different is very good." Nathaniel joined them, wrapping his arms around both of them. They stood there watching the city lights, this makeshift family that had found each other in the most unlikely way. "Hey," Emily said softly. "Thank you." "For what?" Nathaniel asked. "For stopping. That night in the rain, for seeing me when I was invisible." "You were never invisible. You were just waiting for someone to look." Sophie squirmed between them. "Can we have dinner now? I'm starving, and all this mushy stuff is making me hungry." They laughed and moved toward the kitchen, toward the dinner Patricia was making, toward the ordinary beautiful chaos of their life together. Later that night, after Sophie was asleep, Emily found the suit jacket Nathaniel had given her that first night. She'd kept it all this time, even through everything else. It hung in her closet like a talisman. Nathaniel appeared in the doorway. "You kept that?" "Of course I kept it. It's the jacket that changed my life." "It's just a jacket." "No. It's the moment you chose kindness over convenience. It's the moment you proved that good people still exist." Emily touched the expensive fabric. "It's the moment I started believing I deserved better." Nathaniel crossed the room, pulled her into his arms. "You always deserve better. You just needed to see it yourself." "I see it now." "Good. Because I'm planning to spend a very long time proving it to you." Emily tilted her face up to kiss him. "How long?" "Forever, if you'll have me." "Forever sounds good." They stood there in the quiet of the penthouse, holding each other, two broken people who'd learned that healing doesn't mean pretending the breaks never happened. It means building something new from the pieces, something stronger, something real. Outside, the city that had almost destroyed Emily glittered with a million lights, each one a story, each one a life, each one a person fighting their own battles, carrying their own scars, hoping for their own rain-soaked miracles. Emily thought about all the nights she'd spent in doorways, praying for someone to see her. All the mornings she'd woken up not knowing where her next meal would come from. All the moments she'd been so close to giving up. And she thought about the single decision that had changed everything, the moment Nathaniel Hayes had stopped walking. Not because he was a billionaire, not because he had resources or power or the ability to solve all her problems with money, but because he'd chosen to be human, to see suffering and respond with kindness, to prove that sometimes the smallest acts of compassion create the biggest miracles. Sophie appeared in the doorway, clutching her stuffed elephant, eyes half closed with sleep. "Bad dream?" Emily asked. Sophie nodded and climbed into Emily's arms without hesitation, without fear, with the absolute trust of a child who knew she was loved. Nathaniel joined them, and they moved to the couch, this family of wounded souls learning how to heal together. "Tell me a story," Sophie mumbled. "What kind of story?" Emily asked. "A true one, about how you and Daddy met." Emily looked at Nathaniel over Sophie's head. He smiled. "Once upon a time," Emily began, "there was a man who'd forgotten how to feel anything, and a woman who'd forgotten how to hope for anything. They met on the worst night of their lives, in the rain, in a city that didn't care about either of them. "That's sad," Sophie said. "It starts sad, but it ends happy. Want to hear the rest?" "Yes." So Emily told her about the rain and the jacket and the choice to stop instead of walk past, about the diner and the coffee and the first moment of trust, about building a life from nothing but kindness and courage and the willingness to believe that broken things could be made whole. Sophie fell asleep before the ending. Emily carried her to bed, tucked her in, kissed her forehead. When she returned to the living room, Nathaniel was waiting. "You left out some parts," he observed. "Some parts aren't for 4-year-olds. "Like what?" "Like how terrified I was. Like how many times I almost ran. Like how long it took me to believe this could be real." Nathaniel pulled her down beside him. "And now?" "Now I believe it. Not because it's perfect, because it's not. We're both still figuring things out, still healing, still carrying scars that probably won't ever completely fade." Emily took his hand. "But we're doing it together, and that makes all the difference." They sat in comfortable silence, watching the city lights fade as midnight approached. "I was thinking," Nathaniel said eventually. "About what?" "About how many people I walked past before you. How many times I could have stopped, could have helped, could have been human instead of just successful. You can't save everyone." "I know, but I could have tried to save someone. Anyone." He paused. "Sarah used to say that kindness is a muscle. The more you use it, the stronger it gets. The less you use it, the harder it becomes." She was right. After she died, I let that muscle atrophy. Stopped caring about anyone except myself and Sophie. Stopped seeing the world beyond my own pain. Nathaniel turned to face Emily. "You didn't just let me help you. You helped me remember how to be the person Sarah would have wanted me to be." Emily's eyes filled with tears. "I think she'd be proud of who you are now. I think she'd be proud of both of us." They sat there until the city quieted, until the lights dimmed, until exhaustion pulled them toward sleep. Before bed, Emily checked her phone one last time. A text from Rebecca. "Saw Ryan's parole hearing got denied. He's staying locked up for the full sentence. You're safe." Emily stared at the message for a long moment, then deleted it. She didn't need to hold on to that anymore, didn't need to track Ryan's movements or fear his return. That chapter was closed. She climbed into bed beside Nathaniel, who immediately pulled her close. "Everything okay?" he murmured, half asleep. "Everything's perfect." And for the first time in her life, Emily meant it. The next morning arrived with Sophie jumping on their bed at 6 a.m., demanding pancakes and announcing that she'd decided to be a dinosaur today and would only respond to roars. Emily and Nathaniel exchanged exhausted looks that turned into laughter. This was life now. Not a fairy tale. Not a rescue story. Just 3 people choosing each other every single day, making pancakes and going to work and dealing with tantrums and deadlines and all the ordinary chaos that made a life real. Later, as Emily walked to her office, she'd taken space in a building downtown for her growing design firm. She passed a woman sitting in a doorway, young, scared, trying desperately not to cry. Emily stopped. The woman looked up, surprised. "You hungry?" Emily asked. The woman nodded warily. Emily gestured toward a coffee shop across the street. "Come on, let's get you something to eat." As they walked, Emily thought about a rainy night 1 year ago. About a billionaire who'd stopped when everyone else had walked past. About how one moment of kindness could change everything. She couldn't save everyone. Couldn't fix every broken thing. But she could stop. She could see. She could be human instead of just busy. And maybe, just maybe, that would be enough to change someone else's life the way Nathaniel had changed hers. The cycle of kindness, continuing forward. Breaking through the darkness, one stopped moment at a time.